They're like, yay,
Yeah, like
trip.
why would they let a bunch of convicts go out and do a TV show? But
Crazy.
That's what I heard. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
And they were
American
so
Gladiators.
Yeah.
dude. And there was one point where during the show, Hulk Hogan said something to me, and I'm like, yeah, like I'm perfect for this challenge. My whole job is about running from the cops, and the whole crowd was like, yeah, there's all these convicts in there.
All right. We are back, huh? We're back at the 9 Club, everybody. Today, we have a very special guest, Mr. Chad Knight is with us. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Dude, our pleasure. Thank you for coming,
Definitely.
dude. We appreciate that. We are on an Osiris Storm roll lately, man. We've had a lot of Osiris Storm riders on. We're psyched.
As you should be.
Yes, yes,
Hell yeah.
for sure. Did the Osiris Storm, let's just get right into the Osiris Storm real quick.
Why not?
Right off the bat.
Did it change a lot of your, the way you were perceived, and did you get more spawn? Did it do anything for you?
Hard to say. I think it did. This is something I wanted to get into anyway, a little bit more in-depth conversation about what was happening all there and how it kind of evolved within the industry and perceptions. I think, you know what I mean? But it definitely opened up a lot of doors in terms of, it was like video of the year. It was so hyped, all these things. And
Tour you went on.
Yeah, and the tour we went on.
Yeah,
And there
crazy.
there was incredible skateboarding in the video. There was a lot of stuff that no one had ever been on, like the Smolik stuff you guys were just watching over again. Like, it's wild, like he's doing some next level stuff that no one's been done before. So being part of that was awesome. But I would just say that it was never lost on me, the perception within the industry of us.
Okay.
think
So
is
you
the best way to
knew
put it.
that there was a perception in the industry
Yes.
of you guys.
Yes.
What was your feeling of that perception? We're really getting into. I didn't know this was going this way. To be honest,
you said it this way.
You forewarned us.
Scoot up a little closer to the
I know,
mic.
I
Get
am.
comfortable. Let me get some popcorn.
Well, I want to be very careful to not disrespect anybody or feel like I'm shitting on anybody or anything, because the experience was incredible. Having all my friends there, being able to be part of something that was skateboard owned with footwear at that point in the process, introducing me to footwear design and the process of construction types and all that kind of stuff. But it felt a little bit forced to me, I think. And I don't know what it was exactly, but for me, I think it's like it was authentic. It was purely authentic, but it felt at the same time slightly inauthentic for some reason. And again, it could have just been that was my perspective on it, because that's how I felt. I felt maybe like the imposter syndrome, maybe.
Weird, because I don't really remember it feeling forced, as you say.
It almost felt like blingy. Like it was like they were trying so hard to be just I don't even know, just so extravagant, and the shoes were so crazy.
Yeah.
But a lot of the skate shoes were all big at that point, but you guys were taking it to the next level, especially with the D3 and everything.
Yeah.
But as far as the team, it seemed like everybody was friends, and it was a whole thing, and it was an atmosphere.
It seemed like a San Diego thing.
Yeah, it was definitely San Diego.
for sure.
It definitely was,
sure.
yeah. But I think that I was on the periphery of that a little bit. Like Mayhew, Tyrone, Brian Reed, Mayhew, Tyrone's whole crew with Dave Fry and all those guys, they were super tight. And we all kind of moved to San Diego around the same time, like Mayhew, Tyrone, myself.
You're originally
Aaron
from
Snyder.
Ohio.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. We all moved out around the same time there, and there were the people who were again, this is something I learned through watching the show, hearing Mayhew, with the difference in terms of aspiration that we had in skateboarding and where we thought we could go with it. I was like, if I turned pro, that would be amazing, And then I hear Mayhew's episode, and he's like, I thought I was going to be on Girl, and I'm just like, man, there was such different expectations for where we were going, So when these guys all met, I feel like the guys that were super, super dedicated and knew what they wanted out of their career kind of clicked together, and they would go cruise around.
Right.
And then there was just the kind of piles, the ones that just wanted to have fun and party and just. So I was quickly absorbed by that crew. And so Mayhew and those guys are living in these apartments, and there's 12 of us in a 3-bedroom house.
Okay.
Just living and just raging. So
Wow.
there was a little bit of a disconnect from me and the team, I feel like, and I was and I've always really been into to hip hop and that culture. So that was something that was natural to me, but I think that maybe I just tried to force it a little bit too much to try to fit in. Just feel a little bit like I was more part of that community.
Sure.
I
sure.
wanted to be part of it, but I felt like it was a little bit forced on my end.
Did you notice at that point that it was getting big?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I noticed it before I got on the team. Mayhew, it was Mayhew, Tyrone, Gershon, and McNatt initially. And you could see that, it was a really good squad. And having it be so organically grown at that time in skateboarding was really appreciated. And I think it was quickly recognized by other skaters. That's authentic.
Right.
That's from skateboarding. So they supported it, and quickly, I saw that it was growing in popularity super quickly.
And you were how old at this point?
I was probably 21.
21.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, already Maple, turned pro, all that stuff. Had you had a shoe by this point too?
No, I
had a
was
shoe
riding
after.
for Airwalk and then Dukes for a little bit.
Okay.
And then I moved over
To
Osiris and
Gotcha.
got a shoe after about a year
Okay.
of riding with them.
Okay. Oh, wait. So how long were you on Osiris before the video came out?
Probably about a year.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit longer than that, but it takes a while to develop a shoe anyway.
For sure.
What was the first one called? Did it have a bunch of crazy lines on it?
Yeah, it was called the Scheme.
If I can.
SK.
Oh, not
EA,
the other one for S.
There was no,
Because there was a scheme for the S too.
We came up with our own, apparently. Yeah.
Which one?
I
was
think
that?
Somebody's biting somebody.
Yeah. There's only so many names out there. But
Because I feel like I had a pair. The only pair of Osiris I have, I feel like your name was one of your shoes. But maybe it had a name. It had a name to it though, which confused me.
So yeah, it was called that, but it was something else I kind of struggled with at that time was I was so new to the industry. I'd been pro for like 4 years, having a signature shoe felt a little premature. So what I opted for on my first one was just a designed by.
Oh, okay.
So it was called the Scheme, but it was designed by me.
I see. Okay.
So-
Same royalties, same
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Yeah.
It was just a design by. Okay.
Well, you figured you didn't want to have your own signature shoe.
I don't know. I mean, at that time, who had shoes? Like Sal, Danny Way? You know what I mean?
Right,
It
right.
was...
I mean,
Wait,
we are venturing into a new time right here
True.
with shoes and
Yeah,
everybody having
absolutely.
shoes.
How long
Absolutely.
did Osiris was it around prior to you getting a shoe?
Probably 2 years.
Oh, okay. So
would
then,
think.
yeah.
I think it started around 98, and then I got a
98.
shoe around 2000.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but it's something close to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is your first time learning how to design a shoe.
Yeah, I knew nothing. They gave me some paper with, I literally think, like an outline of a shoe. And they're like, draw some stuff in there.
And this is it, right? Is this what
No,
we're
this
looking
is,
at?
so this was the third shoe I had.
Third shoe.
That was
Got
the
you.
graph.
And then what?
That was my favorite
This
shoe.
one
That's
was
the same. That's that same one.
Yes,
just a
This one
different
is the
colorway.
graph. Okay.
I had a pair that was like white with gray and it had a bunch of orange up and down lines on it. And
I think you might have had the Kaspers.
no, did not have the Kaspers.
Yeah.
I could have sworn. I have a photo of me as a kid in them, and I'm gonna get them. I'm gonna ask if they're here.
Shoot them over.
I'm gonna tell you this. Jerome put this shoe on before we started. You look good in these Dubs.
all right,
Yeah, you
yeah.
look good. It's
Yeah.
Good shoe.
It's
and
a
that
good
was
looking
super slim for the time.
It looks
Yeah.
big though.
Yeah.
Look at this.
Yeah.
This
When
is
you
big
put
in
it
my
on-
head, right? But when you put them
But
on,
it
they
didn't look as big when you had it.
Yeah, with the jorts on too. You kind of
Yeah. With the blue jorts.
I fit into
And
the time, the
Yeah.
era.
If you ripped out the tongue padding a little bit too, those things really aren't
Oh,
that
dude,
big. It's
for
just
sure. I took a nap on
the
these
pillow
two before the show.
nice.
Yeah, but what a time to be, like you said, kind of thrust into this whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny because like a lot of people's perception, like the perception, right? At the D3s, like that was a huge, even to this day, it's still kind of a debacle, you know? There's
Oh,
this
yeah.
story about, him coming in late and just, that was his shoe that he got. Nothing like that happened though.
I would say, out of anything, the chances of that happening to somebody would be me. I probably showed up to the meeting late and got a shoe.
After the partying, woke up late.
Dave was probably up all night for weeks designing his shoe.
Right.
Yeah.
And he designed it off of a hiking shoe or something.
I
That's
think
what he
it
said,
was
right?
a Solomon. You see a lot of those
Yes.
Creek
Yeah.
running shoes
Sure,
back in the day with that pattern on it. I
Okay.
think that was where he
Right.
got the inspiration
I just
from.
love our industry, and I love how the game of telephone just kind of spreads throughout the whole thing, and then you have this narrative that's lasted like 20 or 30 years. Crazy.
Yeah,
really
well, we
is.
had no TMZ, we had no social media, no way of confirming things. You know, a
Right
rumor
then,
would get
like right then.
exactly.
Yeah.
A rumor would get out into the ethos, and then everybody would just eat it up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
Well,
spin it every which way.
What a
Yeah.
great story.
Yeah.
Showed up late. I mean, total skateboarder mentality, right?
Yeah,
So good.
very believable story.
But I love that we have this show and this opportunity to hear from multiple people that is just not the case.
Yes.
He designed his shoe. He brought in a shoe from the horse's mouth also, too.
Yeah,
From him.
Yeah,
It's
I-
what a wild world.
and I mean, I think that it's even, you know, I'm very much arm's length from that whole situation.
What do you mean? You didn't
I don't.
you didn't make some calls?
I'm friends with both of them. But I know that Dave had designed a shoe called the Fifth prior to that, which is very similar design language. So you can kind of see that it was evolving there. And
Okay.
I mean, I don't know the details between, like, you know, who gets credit and whatnot, but I know Dave was very involved in the design,
And he got some good royalty checks.
and he did very.
When you first designed your shoe, did you notice like just the way you lived came to, like, did you start making a lot of money at that point? Was that the number one thing that this money started coming in big
That
time?
was the biggest difference in terms of, like, lifestyle change.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, none of my friends had to pay for beer anymore. That was literally like what
Chad's
happens.
got it.
Yeah. But I mean, I wasn't making checks that were close to what, like, I think Dave and Tyrone were making. I think that they had probably come in under different contract terms too.
Oh, okay.
In terms of royalties and things like that, because when they signed those, it was in the beginning, and they had no idea what this thing was going to turn into.
But back
Totally.
then, 1998, I mean, what kind of checks are we talking about here? Like just one royalty check you may have gotten that you remember.
I think the biggest I got was 12,000.
Okay. I would have assumed more at that point in time, but
And,
yeah,
and
okay.
maybe it was more, and maybe I just didn't get all of what was there.
Did you guys discuss? Did you guys discuss contracts with each other back then?
No, I mean, I think initially they did, because I think that they all got very similar contracts.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, we would ask advice of one another. A lot of us we were completely out of our element in these type of things. So we're trying to figure out, like, even where do you start to think about how
Right.
to negotiate these things. But I think everybody was pretty aware of the deals that people had on the team.
That's something that no skaters discuss really. It's like, hey, it's my contract.
Yeah.
But also, I don't think it needs to be discussed, but it should be discussed to understand how to go about it if you don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
You know
Where,
what I
like,
mean?
where do you stand?
Yeah, where do
Like,
we stand and how do because you don't want to get taken advantage of, but also you want it to make it win-win.
But let's be
right?
honest, there's levels to it also.
Yeah,
exactly.
There's tiers to this, you know.
Like you're gonna go ask like a shot. Like,
yeah. Well, you're getting
story.
that. You know what? I'm going to go in and ask for the same thing. Come on, let's be
you
realistic.
gotta measure here.
Yeah.
Let me see how this is gonna work.
I'm only getting $100 from 1031. What is going on? Why are you making that much money?
Yeah.
Yeah, slightly different levels
yeah.
of comparison there. But yeah, I mean, the money came in quick and left quick. But again, it was just one of the most incredible experiences ever to be part of that at that time in skateboarding. And again, it's this is what I kind of wanted to talk to you guys about. We were talking before the show a little bit about a perception of skateboarding crews or cultures or whatever posses kind of in different areas between San Diego and maybe like North County, San Diego, and
NorCal.
and LA.
Yeah.
And then you go up even into NorCal. But like, I don't know. I just think it's really interesting to understand what your guys' perspectives was of that back then, based on what my assumption of perceptions were of things back then. Because I just feel like it's really cool being at this age that we can have conversations about
Sure.
stuff like that now, where it's like, yeah, back then it was like, man, we thought you guys were goofy.
I mean,
right.
I don't. We said before the show too, but like I was hyper focused on Girl and Chocolate. Before that, it was World and Blind and Plan B and all this stuff. So I would watch the Osiris video when it came out,
Yeah.
but that was as far as it went. Maybe one time. I wasn't too interested in it. I went back to what my guys were doing here that I can actually see, and I would see them around and all that stuff. So I really wasn't, whether I thought it was, cool or whack, I wasn't even really like paying that close attention. This is just me personally.
Yeah, yeah,
I would
yeah.
just watch the
I can
video
feel the same.
and be like, okay, cool. Like that wasn't my cup of tea. My
Yeah.
cup of tea is the girl in chocolate and the
Absolutely.
clean and you know, that type of stuff I grew up
Style.
I'm weighing
Style.
on the same
Yeah.
wave that you're talking about as well. Like I didn't really the video like those videos would come out, I'd look at them, but it wasn't something I was like, damn, those dudes are like good or budget or whatever the fuck they were. You know, I didn't really take too much time, and then I'd come back over to
Yeah.
you know, my little crew and then get back in the zone type of deal. But
And
yeah.
for that matter too, it's like maybe you'd hyper focus on one person on that team.
True.
That
That's
one
true.
video part, you go, well,
Yeah.
oh, that's a good
Yeah.
video part. I'm going to
sure.
watch that. It gets me kind of psyched. Maybe it's a Peter Smollick. Maybe it's a Brandon Turner. Maybe it's a Jerry Sue. You know, maybe it's a Chad Knight. So yeah, for me, it just wasn't. If you maybe you're asking the wrong people.
No, hey, Timmy, hey,
asking-
I think I'm a good person to ask on this. To be
True.
honest,
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Because I was a kid watching
Yep.
all you guys.
Yes.
You know, and so I grew up in Orange County. When I first started skating, my friends would start taking me to LA and San Diego. Mm-hmm. To be honest, I would go to both, and I was like, dude, San Diego's so sick. And this is late, yeah, I mean, 97 maybe,
Yeah.
something like that. And when the storm
How
came
old
out,
were you in '97?
I was 13.
Oh, okay.
So I started actually the first time I went to LA or San Diego was when I was 13.
Yeah.
And then I started skating more and more, 15, whatever, go down there more. Anyways, I will say this. When the storm came out, a lot of my friends stopped going to San Diego. I'm not kidding. Like we would go skate down there and then go to LA and go back and forth.
Why?
Just because it made like the perception that you're talking about was exactly what you're like. It was like, oh, those guys are on their own shit. We don't want to like, and I really didn't have feelings about it because like I said, I had your shoes.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I like it, you know. But then the storm came out, and it genuinely was that everyone really was like, oh, girl chocolate, DCS, it's all in LA. Let's go that way.
Yep.
That was kind of the way I heard it when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And that's for me. Would you kind of agree that's what you felt like?
Yes.
Thank you.
But I hate saying it. I don't want to feel like I'm shit on people, but I think it's
yeah,
fun to have these honest conversations at this point, you know, and it's personal. That's how I felt. You know, I'm not dissing on anybody else at all.
But with all that said, though, I definitely acknowledged and knew who you guys were.
Yeah.
And that's what you were saying, like, I don't even know if we've met each other before.
Yeah,
But, like, I felt like I've met you before.
Yeah.
Like, whether it had been at an ASR or a trade show or something like that. Maybe in the streets, I don't know. But there's got to be some sort of, like, respect in
sure,
that sense
yeah.
where you're just like, dude, I recognize you as
Yeah.
my, fellow skateboarder.
Yeah.
You know?
I also think back then everybody was talking shit about everybody.
True.
Yeah.
So
For sure.
you rewind the tape, and I would have said that Osiris was whack.
Yep.
But now it's just different. I don't know.
Well, it's
just-
funny. It's because like the industry was talking all this shit, and the kids loved it and were buying it. You know what I mean? So I was a kid buying it, and I'm being like, and then also starting to hear about other people like talking about it.
There's two-
like the skate shops and all these things.
But
Yeah,
that also
yeah.
went beyond
Yeah.
skateboarding, too. It wasn't just
Yeah.
skateboarding. Like, that held a whole look of its own where people were, like, raving in those things and all types
Yeah,
of shit.
There was a lot of raving in DCs, I think, too, to be
True,
fair.
true,
True,
Yeah.
for
sure.
All day.
But there are two sides of it. There's an industry side, and then
Yes.
there's the people who you really impacted.
Exactly. That's what I was just
What
gonna
do you
say.
care about, right?
I-
The people that you impacted,
yeah,
probably.
absolutely.
Who cares what?
100%.
You're looking back at it now. You're in a whole different realm right
Yeah.
now. Who cares what the industry's
That's
thinking?
and that is exactly what I was going to say to him. At the end of the day, like if we inspired any kids to believe in themselves that they could do something they couldn't do, or made them get out there and try something that they were afraid to try, like that's all it boils down to. And that's why I don't really care saying these things. It's
Yeah.
not like I'm too overly concerned
And I
about
also
it.
definitely think it's definitely individual. A video like that would come out, and then people focused on certain people in the video.
Yeah, yeah.
right. It wasn't like, yeah.
It was kind of different from what was the other skate videos were getting put out too. I felt like a little different because when did that come out? 2000?
1998, 99,
In 99, yeah.
99.
It was my freshman year of high school. I remember that. But that's when I started to like understand where I was as a skateboarder.
Yeah, yeah.
I saw that video come out. I was like, oh, this is cool. And then I started seeing Transworld videos and like the chocolate tour and stuff like that. And you're like, oh, I kind of more go towards these guys. And that's kind of the like
Our style of skating.
Yeah, exactly.
Our style.
So I'm sure,
it was-
I'm sure I definitely ridiculed the video when it first came out.
I mean, I got a lot of love for San Diego. I lived there for years, but
Yeah.
that was after the fact. I remember going down there, be like, dude, San Diego's awesome, dude. No one really comes down here anymore. There's so many spots, and everyone's so cool. Skate Mafia was like kind of carrying the torch for San Diego. It still is.
They are the new Osiris, I feel like.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but like I know what you mean by that.
Yeah, I just mean in terms of like that, where they live in San Diego, and kind of that
True, yes.
crew has just evolved into that.
They're holding the
They
flag.
are
Oh, yeah, they're holding it
insane.
for SD all day.
Like, I love that team and everything. Like, I
Yeah.
am.
It's different than LA, right? There's
Yeah.
people who hold LA down, but then like the San Diegans, right? Like that crew.
Yeah.
You don't. There's people. I mean, I don't know. LA's different.
LA's too big.
It's too big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pocket crews in
For
certain
sure.
areas.
Yeah, I think a lot of it too is like who you know before you move out there. For those of us that weren't California residents, you kind of land where you land, and then you absorb, or you just kind of adopt whatever that group is doing.
But you also had a taste of it before you even got out here, right? I mean, you grew up in
Yeah.
Ohio. Wasn't your first sponsor like H Street or something? Like, how did even that come about when you're in this zone? What year was that? Like
it would have been
93,
about
94? 80.
Yeah, it was
Okay,
like 13.
sorry. Got my dates mixed up.
I was born in 76.
Okay.
So about 13 years after that, about 89.
How did
somewhere
that come
around there.
about?
So
How
I
did
was
it-
super lucky. I grew up in Ohio, so obviously it's super cold there in the winter, and it's just it's one of those places where there's a lot of weather, so the ground just gets shitty.
Is this around
That's
the time
Sun
sponsor me?
Sports.
Okay.
So this is where I was. Man, I got so you see the little fists too that I got from you guys back in the day.
Dubs, did I not say
Yep.
everybody's got the little fist?
Yep.
Yeah. There it is. You cannot not see it now.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Wait, this is a
My
sponsor
friend even
team?
made fun of me for doing that. He's like, "Why are you trying to be like those guys?"
So
So yeah,
this
so
is
I was fortunate enough to have a skate park that was very close by to my
That's so good.
my house, and was lucky enough that there was a family car I could use on my own when I wanted to go there. I could go there, so it was like 24/7 skating, and we would skate there all the time. I eventually got sponsored. The guy that ran the place, his name was Kenny, was like the best dude. Like he would just go out of his way to help anybody, and he helped take like my tapes out to ASR when he would go, and he got me on Union.
sick.
He got me on H Street, co-sponsored, and then so I would like pay half price for boards or whatever.
Oh.
So he was kind of my conduit into the West Coast.
He was your first sponsor.
Yes, exactly. Sun Sports. And then when I went out to Woodward when I was like 14, I think.
PA.
Yeah,
Yeah.
PA. Danny and Mike Carroll were out there filming with Ternansky, and I filmed with them.
Oh wow.
So I've been trying to find those tapes since then. I think Danny might have them, but there's footage of me standing up on this battleship ramp at Woodward, PA when I'm a little kid and questionable.
Oh, wow.
Because I was filming with them. Yeah, so then I got kind of on the team, and we can come back to this maybe
Sure.
when we were talking before the show about how listening to the show has made me realize a lot of things in hindsight about why maybe certain things happened or what. But
Well, Woodward
So-
was huge for a lot of people too.
Yeah.
A lot of people met there.
met
and it was
Barley
a good-
there,
yeah.
Ricky Oyola,
Crazy.
like all those dudes. So yeah, that's where I got sponsored by H Street a little bit more formally.
Okay.
I think, and then I think the next year they started Plan B.
you were like, okay, I guess this is it.
I was just kind of always chasing. I feel like
Right.
my whole
Man.
career.
Is that where you talking? The photo right behind you to your
Yeah.
left is that when
Yeah.
we met Ternansky?
yeah, there he is.
Mike Ternansky. So,
So
this
funny.
was
Wow.
probably like 98, I guess.
Wow.
88?
Yeah.
88?
Oh yeah, sorry, 88.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
So-
right before Plan B.
Is it true? I heard that Alfonso Rawls and Eric Koston stayed at your
Where'd
house.
you hear that?
Don't worry about it.
Yes.
How
And
did
it's
that?
so cool because I can, when Koston's on like a video now, I can be like, "Mom, look, it's Koston." And she's like, "Oh, I remember him."
How did this? This is still when you were on H
So
Street,
yeah.
right?
So when the video next came out, they had a premiere for it at one of the distribution, cow distribution in Cleveland. And I don't know how in the hell they didn't have a hotel, but somehow they ended up like, I think they're flying out of Columbus the next day, so they crashed at my place.
How did
Yeah, I
you
was like
even
14,
just?
15.
Did they know you were sponsored by H Street?
Yeah,
and
so I went-
Okay.
I don't really know how it happened. I was like 14, and I think that guy Kenny maybe kind of helped. Like, hey, Chad lives in Columbus. If they need to fly out of there, they could probably stay at his place.
Okay.
They're like 16 and 17 at that time, then I would imagine.
Yeah, and they were trying to get me to like get girls over for. I'm like, dude, I'm 13 years old, 14. I have no,
No
idea. Like, I can call Sally over, but I don't know what. So yeah, and then I was I was like a freshman in high school and was wrestling at the time. Like, I was kind of forced into a bit of traditional sports route for a while, and I had to wake up in the morning and go to wrestling practice instead of hanging out with them before they left for the trip, and it was so bummed.
So you got
so
home and they were gone.
embarrassed. I'm like, yeah, sorry guys, I have to go to wrestling practice. I'll see you guys later.
Were you wearing your little suit and everything,
No.
your little head thing? No, okay.
Not there, at least.
When we got there.
How long did you do the wrestling for?
I did it initially when I was in the first grade. Like, my brothers did it.
Wow.
I grew up in a very traditional, middle, upper class, white picket fence, you know.
Okay. So they didn't like you skateboarding at first? Or
Never really, but
to this day?
I mean,
No.
my dad and I butt heads a lot back then. We're great now, you know, but he definitely had kind of a. Oh my
Here you
god,
There we go.
Here you are.
dude! I got third in the state in the first grade
Third in the
Wow.
state.
for my age group, which was like what 5. But yeah, look at that.
Still.
That was my first sponsor me.
Look at you. That's you
Like,
walking
look at
off
how
like
versatile I am.
Look at that. Oh my.
I never thought about like I just saw people like wrestling in like high school. I never know it was like like
Yeah,
let me ask-
yeah.
It wasn't through a school or anything, so that's probably why. And then I did gymnastics for.
No, what?
Wow.
Gee, what the hell?
Why is this on your sponsor me tape?
I think because I thought it was just kind of funny, and I knew that they would never have seen anything like that in the beginning of a sponsor me tape.
This is actually on your sponsor me tape.
This was my very
That's
first sponsor me tape.
amazing.
Where did you send this thing to?
H Street.
It worked. It worked.
They're like, this guy's going places. He's doing this. He's
He's
doing that. He can
multi-talented here.
skateboard.
That is amazing.
It just goes to show, man. I was a kid in Ohio. I had no idea what I was doing or what all this was.
It all worked
I love
itself
it.
out.
I
Like,
love
look,
that.
guys, I know how to flip over. I can fall well.
He gave him a variety.
And that was
Yeah.
my high school that I eventually. This is my first 360
There you
flip.
go. Ugh, you could see the struggle. Oh, he's even putting bales on here.
No, that wasn't an intentional cut.
Okay. There you
The
go.
hell?
Oh,
And there's my
There's
house.
the, what are those?
Oh,
Airwalks?
those are
Yeah,
airwalks.
yeah.
This was
Look at this.
Sun Sports. So Deerdick used to go here too a lot.
Okay.
He used to show up like every 3 months or something. We'd see him there.
Nice.
Where was he at?
Dayton.
Dayton.
It's about an hour and a half, 2 hours from Columbus. It's so funny watching this.
When you
at first I was like, did Roger just Google Chad Knight freaking gymnastics and it just popped up?
God, can you imagine
I was like, how is he
That's so
finding this?
good.
my whole gymnastics catalog that's on YouTube?
what do you mean? He made artwork about this. No, I'm just kidding. So you're still in Ohio. You got H Street. You were sponsored by Evil also?
Eventually,
Was that out
H
here?
Street turned into this was
Still out there.
Yeah, like early in high school, I think 8th Street transformed into Evol, and then the team manager at the time was Ed Dominic.
Yeah.
And I was super close to him. I had been he was who I talked to in California when I was in Ohio. So he transitioned over to Maple, and Dave Snyder and I went over there, and that was still prior to me moving out to San Diego.
Oh, so
this was
you-
all still in Ohio.
Really?
Yeah.
So you went from H Street to Evil. I mean, by default,
Yeah, yeah.
You went over there. When they made when they did Evil, they were redoing the whole team, right? So you maybe not.
Not really. I
No,
don't
they just
think.
kind
I
of
mean,
like changed the name and that was it.
kind of.
Okay.
Because if you think about it, it was still all like Chad Vaught. It was still all the same guys. I think they maybe had started adding people like. No, because Misha even and like Benner Pelding and those guys were all H Street still. So it just transformed names. I think once Plan B
little
had
before
started.
my time, so I don't know too much about
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But, so and
But
then
it's very important that you know these things.
I'll remember it now.
Yeah.
I'll remember it now. And then Maple. So you
Yeah.
got on Maple while you were still in Ohio.
Yeah, I was 16.
Who was on the team at that point?
Wow.
Donger or Ken Liu,
Yeah.
Jason Carney, Mark Johnson, Tom Horning. I think I never met him. And I think that's it, other than
Did you
Mayhew
get-
and Snyder and myself.
Oh, so Snyder was there before you were there?
Snyder and Mayhew and I were all
A big
sorry,
team
I'll
right
back
there?
up a little bit. We all rode for 8th Street, and at one point, like we had all met up and skated kind of Midwest together. So we all talked to Ed. So when Ed was leaving Evil to go to Maple, he took all of us with him.
Ah, I see.
And I think maybe there had always been a little bit of weirdness there with because that was essentially us leaving Osiris to go to Maple, because that was the same umbrella. So when we went back, I think that there was still a little bit of weirdness for the people who were on Maple at the time riding for Osiris.
But
you guys
Osiris
are-
wasn't there yet, was it? It was still Evil.
Not at the time.
Okay,
No.
Correct.
okay.
Yeah.
Then and you guys
I'm
are
jumping
young.
around a little.
What you
Yeah.
know? What? You guys are young,
Yeah.
right? How do you know?
16,
Right.
18. Yeah, I mean, child.
But now you're on Maple. Did you know Mark Johnson or any of these? Did you know this was a fresh team for you?
Yeah.
You didn't know anybody.
Correct.
Wow.
I knew Ed, and
Okay.
I knew Mayhew, but I trusted Ed a ton. You know, like he had done so much for me. I flew out to go hang out in San Diego and skate around for a while. You know, when I was still on Evil, and stayed at his house, and he drove me around. Like he was just such a good guy that I was willing to follow him where he went at that point.
It was a smart move, though. I mean, to get on Maple, because Maple became just kind of an iconic brand.
Yeah.
Especially with Mark Johnson having these video parts with an intermission in it. Like,
Dude.
it
7 Steps to Heaven.
That
so
guy.
Great video.
so good.
Yeah. I really wish, in hindsight, that I had spent more time with Mark back then. I knew at the time how incredible he was and just how interesting of a person he was. But I wish that I would have gotten to know him a lot better.
So was you filming kind of on your own little missions?
Yeah.
You didn't really skate with him back then?
So I would film, because he was all the way up in San Jose.
That's
And
right, yeah.
Mayhew and I were down in San Diego, so we would film with Steve Celentani, who was Mayhew's filmer, who had moved out to California. Like, my buddies and I filmed each other. So, like, going out there and being able to film with him was like a trip, being able to actually have a real filmer on
Yeah.
the
So
session.
when you were filming for the Maple 7 Step, you were already living down in San Diego.
Yes.
You already made the move.
Some of the footage is from Ohio still.
Okay.
I think the video came out in like 96, I think, and I moved out in 95. So some of the clips are from California, but then, there's some hometown goodies in there too.
Right. So you would go up to San Jose at all and skate with these guys? Or
Once, I think.
Once.
Yeah. Like we were that's what I'm saying. We were just like rooted.
Right.
And that's kind of, I think, one of the other things that I really regret was not venturing out and getting to know more groups of skateboarders. Because again, granted, there was no social media. LA 2 hours away seemed like forever.
Sure.
Yeah.
And how are you going to really get to know people? And I've never been super good at just like, hey, I don't know you. Let's go hang out and be friends. So
Yeah. No, San Diego is it's a beautiful city, but it is on its own down there.
Yeah.
It's hard to get out of there. I just did the drive. It took me 3 hours, dude.
Yeah.
Sitting in traffic. But I will say, I could almost say that spots in San Diego there were more spots in San Diego back then than there was in LA.
that's probably what I was. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is that it seemed like San Diego used to have a lot of spots, and LA didn't until people started really skating and filming in LA, and then they unearthed.
Yeah,
There's
so
1,000 times more stuff than there is in San Diego down there.
because they knobbed like all this school. I remember skating this school a bunch too. I can't remember the name of it. It's got the over the rail in the bank thing there too.
That's not Brooklyn, is it?
No, it's a
Roosevelt.
Roosevelt.
Yeah.
Roosevelt. But the spots were so good, but they capped everything down there.
Yeah,
They really skate
Ohio.
knobbed. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
there you
man.
go.
Dude, I went by there. That's completely gone now.
Really?
Yeah.
Washington.
I drove by. It's right the freeway right there, and I was like, it
Interesting.
looked completely gone. And this is
yeah.
psycho.
So this is
Sports
like,
arena. I mean, huge. Switchback.
I had that trick really good then.
Did you?
Yeah. And you know what's funny is I remember always telling my friends afterwards and stuff, I'm like, dude, I think I like closed my eyes when I did it because I don't remember doing it. And then,
Blacked out.
yeah, and then listening to your guys' show with all these people talking about like blacking out during tricks. I'm like, I didn't know that was a thing that literally happened to me.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I just
And then
remember
you're
rolling
riding-
away
you're
like,
riding away.
what the hell happened? Like, how?
How many tries?
Wow. Not a lot. Probably like 20,
Ah.
which wasn't a lot for me. Maybe
And then
that
in the
was-
storm, it was in the storm you switch pop shoved it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
I feel like switchback stuff for that time was next level.
Psycho.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude.
All day.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly felt like I kind of almost went there on a whim, like one of those things. But that right there is probably like the most defining moment of my life, I would say, because that was the one time where it was so evident to me that like that I was capable of doing something that I didn't think I was capable of doing, or that I didn't know I was capable of doing. And it just like it was like, holy shit, maybe, you know, I've always been kind of second guessing what I'm capable of doing and what I could do, and you know, holding myself back a little bit. So that was such a defining moment for me in terms of just like my life perception and perspective. I feel like.
Was that pre-planned, or was that like something that you kind of like, I'm going there today to do this?
Yes.
Okay.
It was pre-planned.
Okay.
But again, it was kind of just like a Hail Mary almost. Like Mayhew had just switched back, so 180'd it.
Yeah.
Oh,
And it was like, I'll
Damn,
try
you
it,
showed
man.
him up, huh? Wow. You just went after him.
Yeah, it had already come out a while ago.
was that? Did you film that early on in the part, or like towards the end? If you can
That was
remember?
pretty early on, I think.
That helped so much while filming a
man.
video part.
bet.
Oh my god! Yeah, I mean that's like now you just got to fill in the gaps and things like that. But
Yeah.
I mean it was so much less planned out then in terms of like, at least for me, you know, I just was like winging it. I'm gonna go skate. We'll get some tricks. I mean, it took even a while even to where we would be like, okay, let's go to this spot and try to do this trick, which I feel like really takes your skateboarding up the next level instead of just having to like skate whatever you're at that day,
Right.
and try to like maybe come up with something. It's going to be pretty maybe average at best.
Yeah.
What
It's
about-
interesting too because like back then I feel like few and far between. I mean, maybe we're getting into the era where you're going out and like actually trying to film a trick. But I mean, at least up here it was kind of like just going out and filming.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you had
No, I mean-
sometimes you did have plans,
Of
right?
course. Oh, if we're going to Van Owen Bump today, all right.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah,
We'll
yeah.
see what happens.
Yeah.
But it's
But back then, though, when you're skating with like you know, Kenton Russell and like Josh Kasper, and you guys are like
Flying.
no, huge ass gaps.
Yeah.
Then you guys kind of battle for spots. Then
Yeah.
to those levels, like, oh, there's this huge gap. I don't want fucking Josh to see this because he'll skate it too. Was there any like keeping spots in a hush back then?
So remember the 3-bedroom house I talked about? Casper lived in that with us.
Oh, okay.
So we would go. I mean, there was like a year probably there when we had first met that we were like skating a lot. But dude, I would never even touch the stuff he would. Like he would jump down the gnarliest shit. Where I'm like, go for it, man. Like
Even Canton, he was
Canton
like
too.
flying.
gnarly.
Yeah.
In a league of their own.
Right.
Yes.
But in the sense of like the sports arena and stuff
Yeah.
like that, like would they? You guys wouldn't session stuff together?
Sometimes.
Okay.
In the Evolve video, I think that Tyrone mentioned, there's a friend section in there where I had a nollie half cab down Sports Arena, and I think it was the same session that Tyrone had gotten a bunch of tricks, and so we used to session it a lot.
And then when you saw Jeremy Ray ollie the whole damn
Dude,
thing,
that. You've been there, I'm assuming, right?
I've never been there. to
Oh,
be
it's
honest.
big.
It is.
I can
Yeah.
just tell by the video.
super
It's
big.
huge.
Yeah. I mean, there's some things you see where you're like, dude, that would be so gnarly. And then there's some things that you see and you're just like, that's not even a spot.
I mean,
And that's not a spot.
he didn't even have that much runway
No.
up there.
He's done this a couple times, guys.
I-
Dude, it
he's
the
he-
water
Yeah.
things are
Oh, God.
even way more out of hand than that is.
Well, it just
Okay,
when you
I gotta
see
go
the
check that out. I haven't
that
seen
shit
that.
is psycho.
Well,
When
that's
you-
just sketchy.
Yeah, when you see the run up to like the sports, the three, with the triple set, you just don't think with the run up with what's going on, like, okay, it's not really possible.
Yeah.
But then you see the Buster Bale that Thrasher did. You get a ramp.
Oh, you get
Oh,
a
yeah.
ramp
And
and
you're
some
like,
shit.
switch flip people or frontside flipping it and all
It's the
this
same,
stuff.
same thing as Wallenberg.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
You know, there's only so many things were possible. Bombing the hill and then coming into the school and then just skating the stairs. But when you put a drop in, whatever.
There's something too to the drop in where you know your speed's right. You have nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
Like you're not exhausted from the push up.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's
That's
something to it
exhausting
that makes
itself.
it easier.
Yeah.
Right.
That is absolutely
Look at that shot.
gigantic.
It's insane.
It's psycho, dude.
I mean, look at where he is relative to that second set.
He would. I mean, yeah.
He pushed
you-
to that.
Yeah. Well, he threw down, right? He threw down and then
Yeah.
yeah.
Psycho.
What video was this in? Was this in the audio video? No.
It was a Transworld video.
Okay.
It was in like 16 millimeter section, I think.
Yeah.
Or-
Yeah.
True. That's right.
Yeah.
That's so.
Only one
gnarly.
that's ever done that, right?
I mean,
Yeah, with by itself
Pushing.
with no.
listen,
with
cover
no ramp.
up the right side of it right here and just look at the double set. Even the double set's huge. And then you add that extra set. Wow.
Yeah, I could not believe when I saw that. That was an era too where it was like every month, like Heath was putting out something that
Yeah.
was so gnarly, or Rowley. Or it was
True.
just like, man, there's so much heavy stuff going down at that time.
What about the gap that Josh Kasper ollie with the DJ at the bottom? Did you?
What about it?
What did you think when that was going on, dude? Because I've been to that gap. It's next to Sarah
I
High
think-
School. It's
Massive.
It's massive.
Yeah.
Did you
And-
think it was a little too much that he had a DJ there? Maybe.
Wait, why was there a DJ there?
Exactly.
Exactly.
He brought the DJ? Listen, I got
So,
this.
I
I got
mean-
this trick I want to do. I
Yeah.
need the tunes.
Well, he I think he tried it with the DJ and didn't do it, and then went back without the DJ. And did it. But so it was this like it kind of it's similar to the that Sheckler kickflip at that Costco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the gap is just really far to the rail.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, before you drop down. So that's what's gnarly about it. But
right.
I mean, Kasper was just so on his own thing, man.
Right.
That guy was so entertaining to watch.
Speaking of Kasper, me and Chris just saw him recently at
Really?
Street League.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Hadn't seen him in years, bro.
Oh, that's great. I would love to see him. I haven't seen him in a really long time.
I mean, talk
Yeah.
about coming in and making himself known.
Yeah.
In the
No doubt.
industry, right?
No doubt.
We could have a whole episode talking about Kasperholics.
Oh my god, Kasper.
Oh yeah.
The Maple years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Great years. You turned pro for Maple. Must have been. I mean, that was a great when Maple kind of fizzled out. Is that when you went to 1031, or did you go earlier?
I went to INC, so this was a dark period.
Okay. what was so dark?
No,
about
it wasn't a dark period. I mean, it was just
on top of the world, and then
yeah, literally. I mean, that's kind of what it was, a dark period for me in terms of kind of career trajectory, where I was going. And I was very guilty of being super complacent and overly comfortable and thinking, that this would last forever. Not a special story by any means.
I think a lot of us have gone through that for sure.
Exactly.
I'm still going through it.
Yeah. Well, live it up. Enjoy it. Enjoy that dream. I mean, it was such a special time though too.
What could you have done differently? More video parts, filmed for different things, transfer
I got
videos,
super
this,
lazy.
that, and the other. Okay.
So, I mean, I'm the typical story of kind of you skate all day long, and then you celebrate at night, and then you start celebrating more and skating less and celebrating more, and then I got hurt. So I was already kind of a little bit of a downward trajectory, not producing as much, not I don't know, just partying too much, like I'd kind of fallen into a pit of depression and started having anxiety attacks. So I was drinking to do that, and then it just kind of, that kind of all will have a domino effect on your career
100%.
eventually. So, yeah, it was unfortunate that I got hurt.
What'd you do?
So I was trying. Are you familiar with that little stage gap that Roddy Mullen fakey flipped off in Second Hand Smoke? It's at Balboa Park in San Diego.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, it's a pretty small stage. I was trying to backside 360 off of it, and I'd always had this fear that it was a really hard trick to kick away. But I had it really good at one point, and I was trying to relearn it, and it was kind of a self-manifesting prophecy because I kicked it out. My left foot landed. What is this? My left foot landed here, and it landed back on the board, so it went like that, and my foot was like backwards.
So you broke your ankle,
Yeah, well, I broke my leg.
your leg.
So I broke my tibia and fibia. I had a spiral fracture all the way up my leg.
Oh,
I had to I remember Scott Pizzelt was there, and he's like, I can't even look at that. I'm going to go get your car. And he drives around, and I don't remember this, but he says he drives back over, and I'm just standing there with my foot straight, smoking a cigarette. Like, I just smacked it
No.
back in place.
Oh,
I just didn't
goodness.
panic.
he
yeah.
said you, and you don't remember that.
I kind of remember a little bit of like, oh my God, my foot's backwards.
I need to fix this.
And tapping it, you could tell there was pressure, like pulling it, trying to pull it back into place.
Oh my god!
Just like smacked it. Went in.
I mean,
But-
at that
but
point,
you're
you
adrenaline, too.
don't know what
yes.
you're doing, right? You're delusional.
Yeah. It didn't
Maybe. I
hurt
don't know.
until till after I had gotten x-rays.
Right.
Then the adrenaline started to wear off, and I was like, can I get some painkillers? This is seriously hurting. And I was like,
Surgery?
they haven't given you painkillers yet. Yeah, so I had to have 2 plates put in and
Put the mic closer. Sorry.
10 pins
Yeah.
in my
Oh my
left leg.
God.
So I was out for about I was out for a good year, and then I had to have the hardware removed, and then that had to fill in, and then I had to learn how to skate again, kind of.
Was your physical therapy drinking?
Yeah,
I think a lot of people were doing that back then
pizza.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and this was actually right when my son was born too, so it was a good time.
Okay.
To be able to spend time with him as an infant, and so a lot of the time I would stay home and watch him, and was trying to learn like Illustrator or do something productive during that time when I couldn't skateboard.
That's where the art kind of started.
And then
right?
yeah,
A little bit. Yeah.
No, not yet.
Oh, okay.
So that was still. This is kind of me leading into wanting to be more involved in the shoe process. So I wanted to learn how to start doing colorways. So I would get the CAD files from Osiris and learn in Illustrator how to start doing color palettes and things like that, and coloring up.
Did
colorways.
you? Because you ended up working for DC, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you end up doing anything with Osiris at that point?
No.
No. You were just getting files from them. Hey, I want to just mess around with stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Well,
how come?
I mean, I really hadn't thought about the like doing shoe design or footwear design back then. I was just really wanting to understand software at that point a little bit more.
So you were taking original stuff that had been done and kind of dissecting it and seeing how they kind of maybe put it together.
Yep.
That's how kind of I
It
learned.
was a
how
coloring
to-
book almost what I was
Right.
doing.
Oh,
Gotcha.
Yeah, I was just doing colorways at that point.
did anyone teach? Were you asking people for advice on things, or were you just on your own doing
So
it?
I was working with Dave Ross, who goes by Persway. He did. He worked at DC. He did like the original DC and Dub logo and things
Oh,
like that. So
wow.
he's incredibly talented. And he was the one that I would work on shoe designs with. So he would kind of help onboard me. Like here's the tools we use. Here's the thinking that goes into how we design a shoe. And a lot of times I'm like, let's do this. Like I want to learn about it, but I'm a skateboarder and you're a designer. So let's really put this ball in your court and I want to learn about it and help with the process and can design this with you. But, have a little bit of a guide on that tour or on that trip.
So give us a timeline really of what happened with Osiris, you trying to mess with these Illustrator files. And then I guess I'm assuming you left your career with Osiris came to an end and then you went to DC.
Kind of.
Okay.
So my career with Osiris ended, I would say, let's just say 2004, we'll say.
Okay.
So, and I didn't get a job with DC until 2011.
Oh.
So there was a time there where I was just kind of doing whatever I could to pay the bills for a while. I was doing like lawn aerating and stuff like that. And then that's when I quit drinking and started skating again, and really got like, rediscovered that love in it, and talked to Svitek, and that's when the 1031 happened. So that during that period is when that happened, and still hadn't even dabbled with like 3D art really at that point.
So before the Svitek thing happened in the 1031, you had already come to terms with wrapping up your career?
Yeah,
You were already moving on to...
kind of. I mean, I was trying to find ways, but I didn't also want to be that dude who just like was trying to hang on for dear life when I wasn't doing my part. You know what I mean? Like it just felt a little bit insincere, but that's why it felt so good though when I started skating again, like every day, and was going to the audio park and skating again. And like I would go there all the time. I was right down the street.
Right. So you were... Okay, interesting. I'm just trying to figure out because... that can be a dark time in a skateboarder's life too, is
Oh, yeah.
realizing that it's over, you need to move on, you don't have any skills. I mean, maybe you're trying to develop the skills, but it's rough. It's rough. It's every skateboarder's worst nightmare.
Yeah.
And it could either be a gradual thing or it could just be in an instant, So
And I think they're better about it today.
Okay.
Like there's people who are willing to help the newer generation usher them out of skateboarding or
Totally.
kind of help them
Yeah,
a little
sure.
bit along. And
Sure.
there wasn't, I don't know, I feel like there was so much of that back then.
I mean, you got contracts kind of dictating that too sometimes.
True.
So you know if you're going to be signing another contract or not.
yeah.
You know, but with board companies, I mean, a lot of board companies do contracts now, which, I mean, that's new to me.
Yeah.
You know, so a lot of the contracts kind of can dictate, you know, where you
Yeah.
stand
That's true.
these days.
That's good. I mean, because it was definitely a free for all back then.
for sure.
When I was kind of when 1031 was, I don't know if it was really wrapping up or if I just felt like I had hung around for too long now at this point, but I really was starting to feel a need to figure out what I was going to do next. You know, like,
While 1031.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was on 1031 and I'm like, man, I couldn't live, I think was the other
Well, it's a small,
main factor with it too.
Yeah.
smaller brand,
Yeah,
right? It's not
exactly.
this big. Yeah. Okay.
So I'm probably making a couple $100s a month at this point, which is obviously incredibly unrealistic to be able to survive on.
Right.
But so I got this great opportunity with Greg Witt, who's an old pro skateboarder and ran Good Time Skateboards for a while. So he started a skateboard company, and I came on, or a skate park, sorry, design company, and I came on to help him work on the skate park designs. And it was in partnership with this kind of playground company that would do some prefab stuff, but it gave me exposure to 3D software because I had to use the 3D software. It was taking the ramps and things like that, whatever that they had made, and moving them around and everything. But
'Cause
it
they're
still
prefab.
was like, yeah, but it still was something there that it gave me enough exposure to where it clicked, and it was the next thing that I was all in on.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, in hindsight, there's a lot of similarities between 3D and skateboarding. I'm self-taught, you know, there's no limitation to what you can do. You're just bound by your own creativity and knowledge of how to use those tools.
But what opportunity did you see?
Footwear. That's really kind of where I was, you know, doing the skate park stuff. It wrapped up. And then I was like, man, footwear seems like the most obvious use case where there'd be value for 3D stuff to be done, you know, exploring colorways or even just making the mold for the sole. Like those require 3D files. So that was like, oh my God, that's where I'm going.
And this is, you said around 2011, 2012,
2010
maybe?
about,
2010?
yeah.
And then DC was already using 3D technology at this point? Or?
So they were 3D printing shoes that were, it was like a shoe design software that was just, I don't know.
Kind of primitive, maybe?
They didn't look like real shoes. They looked like they were on elastic, like a wrestling shoe. They looked super fake. So, and then she had left, and right when she had left, I hit up Jeff Taylor. He had just started there. I was like, hey, I've been working on this 3D software. I figured out how to make shoes in it. It seems like there would be value, you know, in footwear for 3D. Like, do you guys is it possible that there would be any openings or any positions like that? And the lady just quit like 2 weeks ago.
How about that time?
Yeah,
Perfect.
dude.
Yeah,
It was
wow.
like Jeff Taylor has been this like angel that saved me. I feel like so many times throughout my career with giving me
He
opportunity.
is a very stand-up dude.
He's
Yeah.
the man, no doubt.
Yeah.
He's incredible. So he got me an interview, and I came in there with a portfolio that luckily no one, even including me, knew what we were looking at. Like, but they're like, that's a 3D and that's a shoe, so we're gonna hire you.
Wow.
Yeah, it was literally like that.
Like they had never seen it either.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
Because it's like, we don't know what this technology is. You clearly know it better than us because you made a shoe. We can't. So,
And we don't know how we could even implement this,
Yeah.
but let's give it a shot.
yeah.
So, by the way, take that shoe right behind you, because he has a shoe right behind him that's actually a 3D printed shoe. It's plastic with...
But it's heavy.
It's plaster.
plaster. Okay.
So that's probably really loud.
Now, how does something like this... So you took your 3D program. Now, does DC have to kind of conform to what you're doing now? They're like, okay, well, if we need to print a shoe, how do we print this shoe? Do we get a printer? Do we do... Like, how...
So
they have to
already had
source
some-
it now.
They already had some of the systems in process from the prior 3D designer that was there ahead of me.
Okay.
They had invested in a 3D printer. That is usually like one of the first no-brainers for a footwear brand, because these toolings, the sole, is made by a mold. So that's done in Asia most of the time, where the mold factory is done. So they'll send these files back and forth. You can look at them on screen, but there's always something that...
And it's going
it
to take a
doesn't
while
really-
for you to get it back.
Exactly.
Samples.
Yeah. So you 3D print it there. You don't have to make them. You don't have to spend the money on opening a mold. All these things. It's so much time saving. It's so much. There's so many efficiencies in using 3D printing and then we would also, if the designer wanted to make changes to the design or make revisions based on what they had seen out of the 3D printer, then I would go into the file and make revisions to it and send it back so we could communicate that design intent in 3D and not just 2D.
How long would it take to print a shoe back then?
It's about I had it calculated. I think it's like 2 hours per inch.
Okay.
About.
Wow, that's pretty fast actually.
Yeah.
Because I feel like 3D printing back then was kind of archaic a little bit compared to now.
But this was one of the original technologies, this plaster. And it was really easy because you're just injecting glue into these layers of powder. And then when it's done, it dries and you vacuum out all the leftover powder. And it goes back into that bin.
What?
So it's
like excavating.
So
it's really crazy.
Is it laying down colored powder too? Is that how does it get the yellow on there?
The ink. The ink is in the glue.
The ink's in the glue.
And it's just like a traditional inkjet cartridge. And it lays like a micron of powder down each time.
Oh. And then the glue.
Yeah.
So something like this would take, what, like 3 hours, 4 hours?
Probably a little bit more. Maybe like 6.
6 hours. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can I see that real quick? Just slide it over real quick. Because like people that are watching or listening, I mean, this is like it's
plaster,
a hard
essentially. Yeah.
It's hard.
It's a hard plastic.
So it comes out and it's like kind of like a sugar cookie when it first comes out. That's fine. That was broken.
Yeah, I know.
And then you dip it in super glue. And then you take it out and you kind of wash off a little bit and it all absorbs in there. And that's how it becomes rigid like that to where it just doesn't crush in your hands.
I mean, this speeds up the process tremendously.
Absolutely.
And you're sending the 3D. I mean, I feel like even when I was seeing shoe design, like a DVS, and I feel like it was still like 2D paper. It was just like drawings.
That is...
right?
That's still the process.
Did you ever work with 3D?
3D later,
like this?
later.
You did.
Not with actually a plastic mold. No.
Like you never like saw your shoe like, hey, Dron, here we go. We just printed this up.
I don't think they invested into that technology.
Do
most people have this technology now, or is this kind of not normal?
I would say pretty much every major footwear company would have a 3D printer to be able to look at the soles.
Yeah. Before you make the soles, before you start, open the mold up.
Right.
Yep.
What year is this that you were doing this?
2011 about.
Okay, so yeah,
So 3D printers,
2009.
This is just when, you started to hear about 3D printing all over the news and stuff like that. It was literally like just
I mean, I'm sure those machines cost $20,000 back
I think they were
then.
more than that. They were like 100.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now they've come a little more.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You can get one for
Cost-efficient.
$39.99 on Amazon.
That thing was like the size of this table, though. I mean, it was a huge machine. It wasn't just
they're a
like,
lot smaller now. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
there's tons of different types
Different
of different
sizes.
materials.
Yeah,
You've
for
got
sure.
ones that are like PLA plastics, and I've even done some that are like little metal figurines.
Oh wow.
So yeah, you can do a lot of different stuff with them now.
So interesting, man.
So is that one of the first shoes you did at DC?
Yeah, so that's why I brought it. Yeah, that
Okay.
was the first one, and I think we did 4 or 5 of them, and it was all of the I don't remember what we called it. It was like the authentics, like the classics. That was the Akira. It was a McKay shoe, and we did like Titan Deuce, a couple of the original shoes, and printed them out and put them in like some cool black Pelican briefcase and took it to some. I don't remember who the big box retailer was that we were selling them to, but it worked really well. It was just such a cool way of being able to showcase it to the retailer and make them feel like a little bit special that you'd put in this extra work for them, the presentation of it.
I would assume also nowadays the factories have gotten a lot better too. So maybe you don't need the 3D printing as much as maybe you did back then, or maybe you need it more.
It's different because the uppers are always made flat.
And then
it's a shell pattern, and then they wrap it around a shoe last and sew it together. So there's never a 3D version of a shoe never exists.
right.
In all of the files that are combined to go through the manufacturing process. So it's like, we go through a separate additional phase of the process to make that upper in 3D so that you can visualize it
Okay.
prior to making it and make any adjustments and things like that.
Sure. It's interesting, man.
Do you think that being a shoe designer is a stressful job in any way? I know there's probably the pros and cons, But like, I always feel like it's such like a artistic thing that it's probably so fun, especially when you see the outcome of something.
Yeah. I think it very much depends on the company you work for, whether or not, what do they value? Do they value like really cool designs, or do they value super cheap speed to market? Spin it, or do you guys want to try to come up with ways of designing that you've never even thought of before? You know what I mean? So it totally depends.
Yeah, I guess it depends what kind of designer you are compared to who you're working for.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And a lot of people, I mean, there's a lot of designers out there who just have to churn out stuff. It's like a production factory almost. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of designers who I think very much enjoy their jobs because they get to go in there and source inspiration and go in there and do concept designs. And it's an amazing environment being able to work with footwear designers, and in that process is super, super fun.
Do you have a favorite designer? Or designers, I guess.
I think my favorite designer right now is Safa Sahin. I think that's how you say his name. He was at Nike for a while, and now he is the head of footwear design at Balmain, which is like a fashion brand out in Europe.
Big fashion.
He's incredible. Yeah, he's a really, really good designer.
But were you like very heavy when you first started designing shoes? Was it all skate based, or was it all like outside of skateboarding?
Well, so initially it was all skateboarding, just because that was my introduction to it.
And you're at DC.
Yeah.
Exactly. That was my avenue in. That was the route that I could take, and I would have loved to have stayed in skateboarding, and come up with, skate innovations for footwear and stuff like that too. But then I think I like to get a little bit too weird for what skate is comfortable with. And so that's why I really kind of wanted to go explore other categories of footwear than just skateboarding. Although my heart is in skateboarding. Like skateboarding and footwear, I feel like it's a very weird combination to be so passionate about. But like everything in my life has revolved around those two things, whether it's 3D or actually participating.
Yeah, I mean, it goes hand in hand. You need, for your skateboard, you need shoes.
Exactly.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it makes sense.
Yeah.
You said something very interesting earlier before we started talking about you got the job. The parallel for skateboarding and whatever you're doing, you kind of you make it what it is, but having that skateboard mentality makes it that much more easier.
Yeah.
Because we just, no matter how much we fall, we get back up.
Exactly.
So, I thought that was really dope that you can have that correlation.
Yeah. And it took me a while to discover that there was that correlation, but, because I was just trying to figure out, I've been talking to people about 3D and skateboarding, and I just kind of keep asking myself, like, what is it that like makes me love this so much? But it's just, you can get lost in a world again,
For sure.
like, and just, you can get lost for hours and by yourself.
For sure.
And wherever you want to be.
Yeah.
And as we grow, we definitely have different interests and hobbies, and
It hurts way less to do 3D
than to fall on concrete.
skateboarding. Yeah.
Right.
But just
Way
that
less.
mentality, though, you know what I mean?
For
Again,
sure.
like, I'm going to figure this shit out.
Yeah.
I'm going to work it out.
And that's what I'm talking about. Again, it comes back to that skateboarding epiphany of like, why question it? Let's do it. Like, if I try this hard enough, I'm sure I can figure it out.
That's why I think skateboarders have the advantage, and we are in so many different sectors and so many different industries these days that, we have friends all over now, you know what I mean? Or someone that knows, you're like my favorite, when I'm like, what? You fucking are, look what the fuck you're doing, dude. Like, you're in some gnarly industry now, which is, I think it's so rad to see, man. It's such, like, I'm stoked that we're not limited in that sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, we're out there now.
I think that skateboarding attracts super interesting people.
Yeah.
And it's even with like the partying and drinking, like I hear a lot of people say that skateboarding will drive people to becoming addicts or alcoholics, but it's like, I think it's just that people with that mindset mentality are attracted to skateboarding. It's like we want an escape. We want something that we can just put everything into, that we want to do and who we want to be.
I think you could say that about all sports.
True, for sure. Yeah.
I think it's more it's more spotlighted in skateboarding versus like baseball or basketball in that sense.
You don't
They
have a
are
coach?
doing that. They are doing that stuff.
True.
But they're doing it low key.
Sure,
Yeah.
a lot of them
You
are
know what I
partying.
mean?
Yeah.
They're not out like, they have a private room with, with their people and
yeah.
they're doing their thing. it's not. We broadcast it.
Yeah.
We are out there. You know what I mean? So it's
We're also a lot broker than they are.
Yeah.
It's true.
We have more consequences.
Yeah.
What
no
about
doubt.
so when I was trying to transitioning into what I want to do after actual skateboarding, I remember like, man, I really like shoes. I want to design shit. And I was like just drawing stuff. But I remember talking to Alfonso
Yeah,
Rawls, and
yeah.
I was like, because he does it as well, and I was like, hey, do I have to go to school? He's like, no. What do you mean? I'm like, when you think of that design stuff, you think of like you need to go do all these things. What do you recommend? And for you, did you go to school? So what would you recommend to someone who's looking into designing shoes? How would you start going about that when you don't know anything about it?
I mean, I think that in this day and age, you just do research.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much information available out there that whatever you're interested in, you can figure out what you would need to do it. I know a lot of footwear designers that I've worked with or know in the past come from automotive design, because there's not a lot of footwear design courses out there. So they will go into like car design traditionally or some boat design, and then they'll end up in footwear because of the lack of opportunity of jobs in like the car design sector.
Interesting.
But I think, like as things evolve and people realize opportunities for like, clearly there's a need for that. So there's like people opening up shoe schools and stuff. But to be a footwear designer, you don't have to know 3D by any means, like even just hand sketching and throw it over to a 3D designer that can then understand your intent and be able to translate that into a 3D design.
Okay.
So there's a lot of things that make that cake, you know what I mean? But I think that figuring out if you're passionate about it is the first thing, and if you are, then I would say do some research on it and look into like the art center here in LA is that's where almost every footwear designer has come out of their automotive design program.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Wow, that's crazy.
So right here, I think it's Pasadena, I think.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But also, everything's readily available to us now,
Exactly.
right? You got Illustrator, you got Photoshop, you got 3D CAD programs that are readily available and cheap too.
Yeah.
You got TED Talks.
You got TED,
Exactly.
you got paper,
YouTube.
you got
Yeah,
crayons,
YouTube.
you got paper, you got pen, you got YouTube. If you want to become
Anything.
an artist, a recording artist, Spotify, you can put your stuff up there. Everything's readily available.
Yeah,
you can do
no doubt.
anything you want and put your stuff out there. Instagram. I mean, you don't know who's looking at your stuff,
Yeah.
right?
That's very
You know who's
true.
very helpful right now too? AI.
AI, there you go.
Oh.
Jesus.
I actually I'm going to design some shoes tonight with AI.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll send you a link. I've got about 10,000 images.
Oh, yeah?
I'm so addicted to just sitting there and making sneakers
AI?
on AI.
Oh, wow.
Dude.
Because it's insane. It will...
If you
Well,
tell
but-
it enough information, it can
Oh,
extract what
it's
you're thinking.
psycho.
True. But you can also say, change this little one, run it again. Change this little part,
Yeah,
run it again.
regenerate it, whatever. Yeah.
And it doesn't understand necessarily the formal design rules. You know what I mean? But it somehow will come up with these things that break the rules but work so well that it's like, and I feel like that's what 3D also offers is this unique perspective for inspiration that you wouldn't get drawing.
True.
They're just aids in shifting your perspective into discovering something new that you wouldn't have thought of or sometimes even be able to communicate with a 2D drawing.
Are we coming into a world now where we're just cheating?
Basically.
Well,
it's
you
not
could
cheating.
use the same thing
It's a
as,
new tool.
well, like photography.
if you look at it like that, it's not
photography, right? It's a lost art, right? Or so to speak, right?
Yeah.
It used to be film. You have to develop it. There was a process. You almost had to go to
Oh,
school.
yeah.
You had to learn. You had to have somebody to teach you. It was a whole thing. Anybody could pick up a camera now. I got my iPhone. I got this. I got that. Is AI?
Well, what was before that? Painting. And then cameras came around. They're like, no one's going to be a painter ever again.
True.
Right.
True.
And now AI comes around. I mean,
But it's creating a lot more people that can just instantly do something.
Totally.
but I think, I have some very strong kind of ideas of where this is all heading and things like that based on understanding of 3D and AI and things like that and how it can kind of all come together at the end. But right now, it still requires a director. You have to tell it what to make.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like that computer, we're just basically hijacking its imagination.
Yeah.
And it's hard to see the parallel because we don't plug monitors into our head to be able to see what you're thinking, but that's really kind of what we're doing.
Not yet.
And we're telling it what to think. Yeah. So at this point, it's just still a creative tool that you can, throw out like an idea. It'll come up with something wild. You can pull like a little piece that's really cool from it and incorporate that into a design.
Oh, wow.
But being able to a lot of the images I'll find like optical illusions in them still, where like this curve turns into like a lamp in the background or something. So it's not like you can just take an AI image and go manufacture it at this point.
Right.
Okay.
Gotta
Yeah.
fine tune it.
Yeah.
Right,
It needs
right.
a human touch at this point. But who knows where it's all going? you know?
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Once it
interesting.
starts giving the ideas, then that'll get interesting.
And you know a lot about this art. We'll get into that in a second, though, because I want to bring it back. When you were saying that you wanted to stay in skateboarding, but you ended up venturing off. You ended up working for Nike. But before that, didn't you go over to Vans for a little bit? Weren't you at Vans for a while?
Yeah, so when I went over to, this is another interesting part of just the chaos of me learning 3D and like having no idea. It was, it was kind of a disaster for a while because I got there and I had learned Cinema 4D, which we had talked about, which
You
is
got
like
where?
Blender.
To Vans?
No,
or
it's sorry, DC.
Okay.
Sorry, I'll try to be more specific.
No. I just
So yeah, when I got at DC, I had learned Cinema 4D well enough to make something that looked like a shoe on paper when you printed it out. And then what they needed though was someone who used CAD programs, which are so Cinema 4D and Blender are VFX. It's the intent of that tool is to make something that exists on screen.
you can't print
It's
it
never
out.
it's never meant to be manufactured.
right.
Yeah, we've got textures on it that you can only see on a computer. And then Rhino and other things like that, like AutoCAD, are intended for manufacturing. Totally different technology. It's like different mathematics even behind it. So when I got there, I realized that they needed someone to do that stuff. So it was like a crash course on like, okay, YouTube, here we go. Like I literally just sit there all night reading the manuals and watching YouTube. And it was just like skateboarding though. Again, it's like all I could think about. And I would be driving home watching tutorials, thinking about different ways to try to do things, solve problems. Like it was so exciting because it was just like, it's like entering a new level on a video game where it's just like, oh my God, there's all this new stuff to explore that you hadn't had access to in the past.
Right. And then when what happened with DC? Why did you go to Vans?
A lot of my interest was in that visualization side of things. So I learned a lot of what has turned out to be super crucial knowledge in footwear industry moving forward, But I don't know. DC was kind of going a little bit zoomies, and I just felt like they weren't going in like super innovative skate direction anymore. And that's why I love DC.
Creativity.
Yeah, exactly. So they were really pushing the envelope back in the day, and that's what I loved about them so much. And that kind of went away. And Vans had this opportunity where I could go over there and focus more on like the VFX side of things. So like the visualization side. So we would do colorways and renderings because it's Vans, like they crank out colorways and new materials of existing shoes. So we did a lot of that, but that really wasn't like pushing my creative buttons enough. I wanted to do more, I wanted to, help redefine footwear design, like we all come into skateboarding, I think, and with just these big dreams of what we're going to do. So I wanted to do something that was really going to help transform footwear industry. And then there was an opportunity at Nike came up where I initially went over there I worked with a team, digital product creation, and we had like UX designers and whatnot. And what I was focused on was coming up with a way to create a 3D tool for product designers to take advantage of 3D stuff without having to know how to do 3D. And it turns out that was like an initiative of like all these footwear brands at the time. And I think they realized it was just way more challenging than they thought.
I was going to say, how do you do that?
Well, eventually, I think at this day and age, you could do it with Unreal.
Okay.
Because you can customize interfaces so easily in there that you don't, that's where it's all going. You don't need to know 3D when you can use sliders. And now there's so much less like modeling where you're going in and touching like a point and moving it. And there's more of this kind of computational algorithmic design where you're setting parameters and sliding things and moving it around. So I think that, I don't remember where I was going with that, but I think
it was more innovation over at Nike than it was
yes,
at Vans.
Yes. So that was super intriguing to me because I always thought it would be really cool to figure out to really get a deep understanding of how 3D software works too, and understanding like how you can customize it and make all these cool things. And I really didn't understand that until then.
How did a job like that present itself to you?
I got hit up through LinkedIn because there's not a lot of us. There's not a lot of 3D footwear people out there in the world. And I was already working at Vans, so I had visualization experience. I had footwear experience. I had 3D experience, probably somewhat culturally relevant too, with like skateboarding and things like that. So they pulled me in. That was quickly kind of scrapped, which is like pretty common of big businesses that are constantly piloting new things, trying things out. Things don't work. So I was absorbed by the 3D design team. And that was like, that's when I found my home. Like that was my like tribe, you know? So I came into there and I was overseeing a team of 3D designers. There was 5 of them, I think. And they were in like the wild lifestyle categories.
What year was this?
This was 2017.
Okay.
2016
okay.
to 18.
And you moved up to Portland.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I moved up to Portland, it was for Nike. It was 2016.
Okay.
And I started at that weird kind of job that transitioned into the 3D design team. I oversaw a team there, and it was the greatest time. Like I oversaw the team that worked on like collaborations, ISPA, which was like this super almost like avant-garde side of footwear that Nike does. So it was really fun getting to work with super creative people, but also explore new technologies. And for the first time, I was working with other people that did 3D too. So that was the other thing I forgot to mention is I was really kind of on my own this whole journey, learning, watching YouTube and Grayscale Gorilla or, you know, whatever these tutorials are online, just trying to like keep going until I got to the point where I felt like I was like caught up with 3D.
And then now you have people who will do the same thing. You found a family.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
It's like speak the same language.
Right.
Like
Exactly.
know what you're saying to each other.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Huh.
It's like skateboarding.
Sure.
You know, and we all like, hey, get advice on how to use a certain technique or a tool or super similar.
So you brought a couple things down there, which
Brought a few things.
I think is interesting from concept to
So I think this one is really good at showing what an entry level 3D model would look like.
okay.
You know, there's no stitching on it. There's no details on it.
Sure. This is the DC one.
And then, so that was where I started and then eventually moved on to be able to do things like this where
You see the stitch.
the imperfections are the perfection.
And this is a 3D print
Correct.
of a Nike
Of
Air
a
Max.
Nike 3D
Air Max.
model.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. I almost could put that thing on.
Yeah.
It looks like it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that, when I was talking about what I disliked about that software they had at DC back in the day, it was so perfect that it didn't look real. It looked like icing.
This kind of does have little imperfections a little bit.
dents
like
in
it looks
little things.
real.
And those are the things that will trigger your brain to look at it as real and then make decisions on it based on thinking that it's a real thing. that
You're
you're
also
making
going to a
decisions on.
company that almost has infinite like
True.
Resources.
yeah.
For sure.
It's also like working for the government at that size. The budgets get spread thin.
Okay.
I mean, that place is gigantic. It's a campus.
Sure.
I mean, it is a massive campus with tens of thousands of employees.
Yeah.
So you were going to the office every day there? Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
See Michael Jordan's spot and everything like that. P-Rod,
Yeah, I
he
saw
was-
Jordan.
Oh,
there.
really?
Yeah.
Did you have to work? Have you worked with anyone like that there? Like
No.
or shoe wise or whatever?
I got to work with a couple big fashion designers, and Tinker Hatfield, which he was like the Jordan designer.
yeah.
Yeah, you do.
But other than that, no, I saw people around. Like I saw Jordan around. I ran into Koston and some guys one day. That was super funny. I was like, wow, yeah. I'm
Did
here too.
they realize that you had worked there?
I doubt it. I don't think so. I think, I don't know. I mean, probably actually, because I knew the guys in SB. I mean, I it's not like I'm confident they were sitting around talking about me one day, but it's possible that he knew I was working there.
Now, when you hear about skateboarders working at places, you know, people hear about it. You know?
Totally.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
How long? Who's all the skaters that work there, man? They give you a little rundown. You know?
Chad Knight's over there. How long does this take to print?
Same, but it's
6 hours.
Height.
Yeah.
Height is what it's dictated by. So about, I don't know what I said, like 2 hours per inch about.
Sure. Okay. Wow. So
But-
interesting.
And there's rubber technologies, and you see like Adidas has like the 3D printed soles and things like that now.
You
So
can bend
the
them and squish
technologies
them
kind of
and
go
stuff
in all
like
different
that.
ways.
Right. And then you also have something there which I found the most interesting was it looks like nothing. It looks like something I would find outside and kick down the street because it looks like a rock.
Yeah. So
So the
these
gray one.
are So the gray one, these are the same thing. One's just, they're printed with different materials, and I painted one.
Okay. So what are you doing
really.
with this?
So
what is this?
Okay.
This is
So this is the next evolution of how we use, or I apply 3D to footwear. First, it was very simply manufacturing, translating designs. I'm literally just acting as a translator of the designer to the manufacturer. And then I got to where we were working with designers to understand their ideas and try to explore in 3D so that they could, just kind of break the monotony of things. But I always wanted to pull it forward further and further. 3D traditionally in footwear companies is used as like an engineering tool or an operations type of thing where you're supporting them, but you're not really contributing creatively. I'm like, why not? It doesn't make any sense. It's like there's so much creative opportunity with these new tools that are popping up. It's just, I think, perception of businesses is that these tools were created for this purpose. So that's how they're used. And so what I wanted to do, and a lot of this too was me really wanting my team to feel like they were fulfilled with their job and that they were having an opportunity to creatively contribute to the process, because I think a lot of them just felt like they were there to support. They didn't get recognition. They didn't anything. So we see every season starts with design leadership will go and they'll source, figure out what's cool, what design look they want for that season, and they'll put together a bunch of image boards, bunch of stuff to be able to communicate to the design team. This is what we want stuff to look like.
okay.
Designers will go off then usually to Pinterest, and they'll source the same images that every other designer, every other company has sourced for every other season over the past 10 years. Same cars, same umbrella design, same hair blower. It's like they're all just finding these little hints of inspiration that they want to be able to pull from to be able to apply it to a shoe to create something new. So, but we have all these tools that can create novel forms that could be used as inspiration. So that was what I proposed then, was that the team come together and we create a bunch of novel inspirational content for the company to be able to then use these as their kind of jump off point for design. So you're starting the design with
Shapes.
this kind of a point of differentiation from the competition from the very beginning of the process.
Right. Okay.
And that's where I was like, this is an opportunity that no one's really even looking at yet.
So with this gray one right here, you're just using shapes and stacking it on top of each other and then kind of like shaping it into the shape of a shoe essentially, but you're kind of like...
So how this works is this started out... Sorry, it's really loud.
No, you're good. You're good.
It starts with a basic foot form.
Okay.
Is what we do. It's usually pretty stylized. It won't look like... I don't know if you're familiar with shoe lasts, where it's the plastic foot form.
Mm-hmm.
They're not very sexy. They're kind of just whatever. So
Gotcha.
we would start with a host shape, we would call it, and it was just a shoe shape that was something stylized that looked cool. Then the team would create a bunch of other forms that were just random, kind of art, kind of designed, like different transitions between forms and cutting out holes in different places. And then I came up with a way to be able to take all of these different shapes and bring them into a shape blending software, which is traditionally used as stand for character creation in video games. So, you want different features on it, so you got to blend between them. Okay. So we brought them in and came up with a system where designers and 3D designers could blend between these shapes and come up with something that was like, ooh, that's cool,
Okay.
So. And then we could also randomize it, so you get 1,000, 10,000 different shapes instantly.
So you're using not only like your own vision, but also like the computer's vision as well.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to again leverage the creative power of the technology and not just using it for what it was intended for.
So you guys come up with something like this, and then what's the final result? You got the final result back there?
This is the one that I have an example for.
Okay.
So it starts like this. Then a designer, will probably sit there and look at it for a very long time, figuring out inspiration for it, start sketching, maybe like have a screen grab of this on their monitor and start sketching over and finding what forms are in there.
Okay.
And then they'll do CAD, tech packs, sketches, whatever. And then this was the result of the shoe that was born from this shape.
And it has writing on it because everybody signed that when you left.
Yeah, that's
when
when I left.
Nike.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was like, I'm sure everybody that I worked with at Nike is going to be so exhausted with hearing me talk about this project again.
Like, here you go. Fast forward.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, I can see the resemblance, maybe the shape of the shoe, but I don't know. I can't.
You can see,
I can see
here.
the back panel right there. Yep,
Yeah, there's some of
the
I think it's
the
this side
ledge,
actually.
maybe?
Yeah, you can
Okay.
see some of the
The
inspiration
ledge, yeah.
of the
So is
these
that
shapes, and then
Sure.
if you turn it, you can see that it's inspired the kind of cut
Little
down the
bit,
middle.
yeah, okay, yeah.
A lot of these little striations were inspired by these little stretching from this. And these weren't intentional; they were just kind of results of the process. Yeah, again, it's not literal. It's not like we made a shoe that looks like this. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? But
yeah.
it's this. I think it helped us arrive at a unique place that we probably wouldn't have arrived at without using that software.
That is a unique shoe.
Right?
Yes.
And I love it.
Is that
That-
so? Is the gray one based off of style and like design, and then the pink one is the way it fits?
Let's just take this one out.
Is that nothing to do with it?
Irrelevant.
Oh, okay.
It was just a
oh.
similar example of the same process that we had
I
used
see.
on this one.
Okay.
So, again, human development along with computer development arrived at this
Correct.
shoe here. Which what was the shoe called?
The Fontanka.
You sold it. It came out. Okay.
Did you personally design that one, or was that with
No.
your team that you, or just?
There was a product designer that worked with the 3D designer on my team, Hannah, who was amazing, and Pavlina, who was her manager, who was amazing. Helped me work with Christina Gehrig, who was an amazing designer, who's now at Lululemon, overseeing their footwear. And she designed this. So, again, it's also about finding willing partners who are wanting to take that extra time and explore something new and kind of take a risk instead of just like, I have work to do, I'm going to get this stuff done, or I'm not a 3D person, that's a threat, I don't like that stuff. There's some of that sometimes too.
Got
But
to have somebody that wants to explore.
yeah, exactly.
So you come up with this, right? You 3D printed. It looks crazy. Doesn't look like any shoe I've ever seen. It's square in the back. It's got this ledge here. It's got all kinds of weird stuff. This thing's popping out on the
Ledge.
side, right? No, but
No, it
who
sounds
do you
funny.
take that to now? And you're like, this is what we came up with. We'd like to run this and put it into production.
So
How does that work?
it first has to be briefed. There was a shoe probably called the Fontanka that had an empty box in it at the beginning of the season. They said, here's our target customer. You know, we want it to reach this audience. It's this age group. It's this demographic. They're into this and this. The product designer then goes and tries to source inspiration that they think that consumer is going to be interested in. So initially, I think Fontanka is a Russian town where there was initially a lot of like 90s rave scene. It was super big in that area. So they pulled a lot of inspiration from that, I think, for the brief for what they wanted. And then that kind of opened up an opportunity to do something that was a little bit more outlandish and push the envelope a little bit because it was a sportswear shoe too. So it wasn't like performance. We didn't have to worry about, how it was going to work on the court and things like that.
I guess my question is like, was there ideas that you brought to the table that whoever the higher ups are said, no, we don't like that. We're not going to run with that. Like there has to be like
Takes about 50 designs to get here.
and approvals to move forward in those
Yep.
designs.
There are steps through every part of the process. There's initial design briefing. Then the designers will go off and again, they'll source their inspiration. They'll pull that stuff onto boards and do sketches. Then they will present that stuff back to design leadership in a design review and say, here's where we're thinking about heading with this. I think it's usually just the individual designer presenting it, but sometimes like color and material will present with them too. They're separate teams. But it's like, okay, this is how we interpreted the brief that was given to us and the design direction from design leadership. Here's a bunch of sketches. What do you guys like? What do you ladies like? And they will say, let's change this. They'll give feedback, and then the designer will go back to the table
So you're telling me that a shoe like this, it's not only the design team and everything, there's probably a dozen or more people that have had their hand in this in some way.
More than that, possibly.
More than that.
You've got development, you've got design, you've got merchandising, you've got marketing, you've got insights, you've got everybody. And that's why...
Are there too many cooks in the kitchen sometimes?
Oh, of course there can be, but that's... I think it depends on the category, though, you know, because sometimes you need that many cooks in the kitchen to be able to make sure that you're hitting all the points. But sometimes they do have many less people involved, and that's for these kind of more exploratory projects where they're like, let's just see what we can do. And again, you know, like with skateboarding, a lot of the times there will be projects that necessarily aren't supposed to bring in a ton of profit, but they're just supposed to create hype. Yeah. And it's like a marketing campaign. So I think that a lot of these projects are like that too. It's just supposed to get eyeballs on the brand and give kind of a nod to where it's headed.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Do you have a certain favorite project you've worked on throughout the years? Or a shoe that came, a shoe that came out that you're like.
I mean, this is honestly like my pride and joy. This is like, you know, I went to Nike and I was like, I just want to make a difference. You know, I just want to have some impact when I leave there, that I know that things are better than they were when I started, or they're more evolved than they were when I started. And having implemented this and knowing that this is still happening there, it is like super rewarding to me. That's all I wanted. Like, you know, like
you left a stamp.
Yeah, and that's all I wanted to do in skateboarding and in this too. And it's like I just want to feel like I made a difference or had an impact on it.
What year did you leave Nike?
2000, it was 21, I think.
Okay, 21.
22.
2000,
something like that, a couple years ago.
When did the whole artwork come into play where you were posting on Instagram and all these, you were starting to get attention? Mm-hmm. Was this all happening at the same time as Nike? Is that why you ended up leaving?
I started doing art when I was at DC.
And posting it on social media and getting a hype for it.
For probably about 3 years, I was getting about 5 likes.
Okay.
So it was a way for me to continue. I was forcing myself to go on Instagram and post something every day because I wanted to continue learning the tools. You know, and being self-taught, I didn't know that you specialize in something. I'm like, hey, you're a 3D designer. I'm going to learn materials. I'm going to learn CAD. I'm going to learn modeling. I'm going to learn simulation. So I just kind of went all in and learned everything.
Was there a moment also, because you had a couple of people like Alicia Keys, right? Was it Alicia Keys?
Yeah.
Like retweet something. Didn't Lindsay Lohan like blow your shit up too? Like,
so it was weird.
Real.
Yeah.
So like it was a real place in Japan or something that this thing existed in.
Yeah. Like I started getting further and further away from creating at these companies I was working for and started managing more and more. So I wanted to have some kind of creative outlet and again force myself to continue learning. So, I don't remember when I started getting a lot of traction, but I remember when I started kind of coming into my own style, I feel like, and was coming up with like these wireframe sculptures that were kind of morphing into each other.
Right.
I like the really large scale stuff.
This is some of your stuff right here.
Yeah. So, and then, but again, like it was it was like skateboarding kind of. It was a hobby that I did for fun that I had no expectation anything was going to come of it. But, you know, I think that when you do something because you love it, and that's why you do it, it shows. And,
shines through, no doubt.
And people can tell, and it resonated with people. And again, like if you look through my art too, you'll see the same thing with skateboarding and 3D. It's like helping try to communicate to people to kind of believe in themselves, I think, or challenge what it is that they're capable of.
Right.
What's your inspiration behind these? Because they're so random and beautiful. Like, where do you start on one piece?
Well, fortunately, there's a lot of weird stuff that goes on up in my head, so it's not a stretch.
We are looking into the head of Chad Knight right now. This is what it looks like in there.
I don't know. A lot of it is informed by the tool I'm trying to learn, but a lot of the time I'll have a feeling or something that I've experienced that day or I'm going through that I want to try to figure out a way to visualize or capture it. And it's therapeutic too, you know, like I can get these things out there and put it in public. Sometimes it's like almost like a journal that's a little bit symbolized so people can't tell what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of nice. It's a little in code.
Your own code.
Yeah.
Right. Your own language.
But I mean, again, it started as like, hey, I want to figure out these tools. This is fun. And then I felt like it started resonating with people, and people really liked it and were getting something out of it. So that's when that just gave me a lot more motivation to keep doing it. You know, if it's gonna affect people. And then I think the biggest thing was I did that Doja Cat album cover.
Oh, okay.
So it was SZA and Doja Cat, "Kiss Me More." That was I think probably the coolest project I've gotten to.
Is
work
that more
on.
recent, right?
This
the
was
last couple years?
yeah, probably 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was "Kiss Me More," SZA, Doja Cat album cover that I got to do. That was probably the most rewarding, most enjoyable project outside of like footwear.
So before that, though, before just a couple years ago, I mean, like, and it's funny because like it's almost like a bad word you can't say
Oh,
nowadays.
yeah.
It's like the NFT business,
yeah.
right? And like you kind of like transition from your artwork from Instagram like seamlessly into this world that was like being born.
Yeah.
And I don't know if taking advantage of it is the right word, but you kind of dove into that and really kind of embraced that and kind of made this whole, like,
Well,
you made a lot of money doing it,
Yeah.
and you really kind of capitalized on this thing that nobody really knew anything about. It was kind of this weird thing that I still don't. It's like I can have a photo on my phone and show, but I don't own it. Like, but I do own it. I have it here. I can print it out. I don't understand. Like, it's a weird thing.
I know.
And nowadays, it's like I said,
know.
it's almost like this. It's
Taboo.
Yeah. You. I mean,
Wherever there's money, there's grifters, man. That's all I'm gonna say. Where there's money to be made, there will be shitty actors coming in.
sure.
No doubt.
So,
Sure.
I mean, a lot of us, like I said, I've been doing this for 10 years just for fun. Like, I love doing it. And that's why the majority of us who were initially involved in that initial NFT phase were digital artists that had been doing this just out of fun with no expectation of getting anything back. You know, like, we're not doing it for the money. We're doing it for fun. But there's never been a way for us to monetize anything on that. But again, that's not why we're doing it. So when the NFT thing came around, and initially it was called crypto art, which I think, you know, who knows if that would have made any difference. But NFT is the worst name ever. So essentially, let me break it down like this. Okay.
You might have had a chance, huh?
By the way, can we just
Yeah, we can
let's put this
clean
stuff-
things up.
Yeah, let's just put that one up there, Dubs, on that. Yeah, put that up there.
That's a dope shoe, dude.
Yeah, really dope. I'm gonna put this one here. Okay, so continue. Sorry,
So we'll consider this fungible.
you're holding
which
up
is the
$2 bills.
worst name ever. Okay, so what do you think of these? They're just the same. They're interchangeable, right? I give you this one; it's worth $1. It's money. It's currency. So there's cryptocurrency.
But
then
that
there's-
also exists in my bank account that I can't see, that nobody can see. It's just
True.
numbers on a screen.
True.
Right.
But then there's this too. This isn't money, is it? That's
No.
not $1. It's not like if you have a shoe, it's the same as this shoe just because it's a shoe. That's all non-fungible means. It's not the same thing.
Okay.
So back to why the name is terrible. Like, you're alienating everybody by coming up with some super high-tech word that makes no sense, even to the people who are involved in it. Like, they're virtual assets. You own virtual assets in video games, I would assume, or things like that. Or collectibles, maybe. Or maybe you have, like, a...
Virtual asset, really quickly, in video games would mean maybe like a add-on that you buy,
Yeah.
and now you own that add-on.
It could be a skin. It could be a
Okay.
gun.
Yeah.
It could be a
which
skateboard.
some people sell this
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
It could
There's
be
a whole
a-
market for video game add-on, whatever it's called. Yeah.
It's a huge industry.
Right.
And real estate,
Real estate.
right?
What do you mean?
That was a thing.
Right.
Yeah,
And
virtual
it's-
real
yeah,
estate.
Oh,
virtual
virtual
re-
real estate.
Yeah.
Right. I get you.
Yeah. But again, it started, I think, with very pure intentions. It was like, hey, we've got this new technology. It's a way for people to own our art or digital assets. You know what I mean? At this point, I think the metaverse is pre-Big Bang. Like, the way we make stuff in 3D relative to how this thing exists is so archaic. And, you know, we make little squares and we put pictures on it and everything. It doesn't really exist. It exists in that software, but it's not like there's no foundational like material that's making it. So it exists,
But it doesn't exist.
It exists, but it doesn't exist. So when you put it on the blockchain, then, as opposed to it existing on a server for a game company, now you can say, okay, I own that because it's tied to me, and it's proven that it's tied to me. Everybody can agree on it because everybody can agree upon it because it's on blockchain. It says that's my asset, and I own it. The problem I see at this point is that you could screenshot that pixel for pixel, and you could have the same thing.
Sure.
Obviously, you can't resell it. You know, you're not gonna. A lot of these kind of later state NFT projects were clubs where like you would buy into it and you would be able to attend certain things. You would get certain benefits. It's like a club for Sam's Club or something almost like that. You know, you're getting benefits back on it. But
a lot of them were pump and dump type
Yeah.
things too, which also creates a bad.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And while I think that there were equally as many with great intentions, there's a lot of people who are really trying
To make something happen.
make this something happen. Yeah. And if you look like learning 3D is what a few years ago I had kind of some of these epiphanies about where 3D is heading, learning about Unreal Engine and how simulation software works and things like that, and where all this stuff's really headed. And then I started to realize that, like, okay, this stuff does make sense when it comes to actually, like, when we are inhabiting virtual worlds and things like that, you're going to have to own an asset. You're going to have to be able to prove ownership of it. It's not going to all just be a picture, though. You know what I mean? It's going to be like a 3D model that has maybe even capabilities in that world that you're living in. So it gets super interesting once you look at it beyond just the surface level stuff of what has been presented and what people have experienced, I think, at this point. There's a ton of opportunity for where that stuff is headed. And again, with like the club thing, like say you did not advocating for anything at this point right now either. I think if you had a 9 Club one, you know, people could go onto a website, they could link their wallet to it, and it would prove that they have access to all these things now. It's not like they would have to bring a card with them.
Yeah.
It's just a simplified way of doing things. But again, you're going to get grifters that come in and take advantage of it and give it a bad name. And there's not really anything that we could have done. There's no regulations to protect against that stuff at this point. But I still believe in the technology and in the sense of, like, it's not like Beanie Babies where it doesn't mean anything. You know, like, this stuff will become something in the future. We're not divesting from computers. You know, simulation software isn't getting worse. It's getting to where we can simulate on like a molecular level now. And that's when it's going to start to get really weird, is when we can simulate at that level. And then you can talk in Neuralink, you can directly override signals from your sensory organs. And that I think is really where it's headed. And that's where the NFT stuff makes sense. You can own assets in that world that you're inhabiting.
So you think, so NFTs were climbing, boom, it was this big thing, and then it kind of imploded, right? And it kind of sank. So you think that there still is a future in the future for this kind of technology?
I think maybe the way that we had used it in the past, just for 2D assets, won't be. But it's as far as I'm concerned, it's an unavoidable technology that we're going to end up having to figure out at some point. Because how do you own virtual assets? We're clearly going into a virtual world or virtual age.
A lot of people, I don't know what the hell a virtual asset is. You know, I know what it is, but like, do I want to own something? Why do I want to own something that's virtual?
Well, it depends on how much time you're going to be spending in those worlds in the future.
Yeah. Where the hell? So we're living in a simulation. That's what you're saying.
We could be. We very well could be. And there's no way of proving it because we have no access to what's behind the scenes, and we're just stuck in the algorithm.
Let's just hope they don't turn it off.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that'd be cool. Maybe there's something else, though, that we get to do.
Would you say, like, if you're playing a Grand Theft Auto, and then you you buy a car, would that be considered a virtual asset in a sense of, like, in a different world and you would own something?
Yeah, it's an asset. It's a car.
Yeah.
And you own it, and it's in a virtual world. It's in a virtual world that's owned by a gaming company that is hosting those assets on a server somewhere.
Yeah.
But the difference is that you're not paying real money for that. You're paying real money for the game that you buy.
That's as far as it goes.
Right, as far as it goes. But then you can own that car in Grand Theft Auto. I can own it. You can own it. Like a million people can own it. And that's the difference, right? Is like...
True. But then there's also a lot of games who are selling in-app purchases.
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, they're making killing off of this, and people...
After the fact.
Right.
If they want to cut the game off, you lose all your stuff.
Right.
And that's kind of where it's a little bit of like, well, what... You know, like, it's a little bit of consumer protectionism in terms of not letting them just kind of run the show on what is and what isn't ownership.
Right.
Because gaming, at this point, too, is becoming a lot of like a service. You're not owning the game.
Yeah, like, I want to keep
it.
all my skins. Like, you know.
Yeah.
Like, they're essentially doing what the NFT world was doing.
Yeah.
Gaming.
Yeah.
Right.
And essentially that is where it will live too.
Few gaming companies try to do that type of stuff.
There's a lot still that are, and that I think I even, when I left Nike, I went to go work for a company that was a startup metaverse. A lot of these founders will come from technology and I think have a rude awakening when they realize what it requires to build something like that. But there's a lot of people who are in Web3 is kind of the terminology that encompasses cryptocurrency and NFTs and all that stuff. Yeah, it's showing up there.
I think it's interesting because I think that we're so, any type of new thing that comes out, like humans, we're just excited about it. And everybody wants to get in on the ground floor, right? I mean, we all missed out on Apple stock and we all missed out on all these things that were happening that are all worth $1 million now. And also like Bitcoin, right? If you didn't come get in on Bitcoin at the very beginning, now everybody's a Bitcoin millionaire and all this stuff. So there is that kind of like FOMO feeling.
Oh, for sure.
And then everybody, you know, nobody knows what the hell they're doing almost. It's like they're trying to figure out as we go, and then that didn't work, and then that crashes, and there's bad actors, and it's almost like it's being created as we go, and some people are going to be getting, you know, fucked for the sense of the word of like, you know, maybe losing money and all this stuff because it's still being created. It's still, there's no,
I mean, the snake oil salesman, it's been happening forever.
Right.
It's just, it is what it is. It's human nature for some people to want to just make money, and that's what they care about.
Right.
It's not about doing something cool or whatever. It's about their own progress.
It had a quick moment, though. It really did.
It did.
Obviously, it's still going to be fizzling a little bit, but man, it had people really like, man, you see this NFT shit? Like,
oh, yeah.
I'm into it, man.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
let's see what's like, bruh. You have no idea what you're about to jump into.
Nobody knows.
Yeah.
I mean, you even said the people involved didn't even know to some degree on some of this stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the people just, I think through no fault of their own, there was
From
a
an
lack of
investment
information.
standpoint,
Yeah.
But you saw it and you were like, hey, this is my opportunity to sell my art.
And to be completely honest, none of the artists ever thought of this as a temporary thing. We truly viewed it as, we've been creatives and making art forever, for fun, you know, that just out of the pure enjoyment of it. And there's finally a mechanism for us now to participate in the art world. Mm-hmm. That's all it was. It wasn't like we were like, yeah, we're going to sling all this stuff. It was like, cool, we've arrived, you know, like it's our turn to participate now.
I don't have to be a Damien Hirst. I don't have to be, you know, a Picasso or something.
Damien's got lots of NFTs.
For sure.
Yeah.
But he was a huge,
Exactly.
He's the most wealthy living artist that there is or something, right?
Yeah.
So like, but not everybody could be a Damien Hirst,
Exactly.
right? So it's like all the smaller artists that are now available to like try to like make some money doing this or sell your pieces.
Yeah, but it's not just that. It's not that everybody can be a Damien Hirst. It's like, let's say not everybody could be a Picasso, but then they invented photography. It's a different feel. It's a different medium.
Right,
so
right,
it allowed these other people to kind of usher into that creative
Right.
space, which, again, we've been on the periphery of. We've inspired a lot, but we've always just been kind of on our own in our own little camp doing our own thing. But because we love it, though, is the thing.
Right.
You know, and that's why we're doing it.
And I think in any industry, if there's an opportunity there that arises maybe out of technology, like everybody's going to try to jump on it and try to make it work.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And then if it doesn't work, it is kind of what it is. And you got to move on and figure out the next best thing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happened. But you feel that it does have an opportunity in the future at some point to...
I 100% believe it. I mean, it seems like the hype of 3D printing to me in 2010. You know, like their stocks were going crazy. Everybody was hyped, but it was like, look, the technology's arrived. It's going to take a while for it to mature and to be scalable, you know, and like be able to do these things on a really large scale and whatever. But we're inching there for sure. It's
so interesting.
How do you put a value of something like this digital assets? How do you put the value onto something like that?
Doesn't the buyer?
Essentially, yeah. I mean, it's a similar. I would say it's analogous with the art world because it's a creative piece that someone's willing to spend however much that person thinks it's worth.
But like you're making something though, so you're creating something.
Yeah.
and you sell it?
I see. Okay. That is usually not dictated by, but you'll work with the platform on that who knows their collectors and things like that very well too. Or it's set by by who you are as an artist and where you're at as a tiering as an artist. You know, like what your stuff's worth, what it resells for traditionally. You know, like it kind of takes on a life of its own, and it's not something that at least I was comfortable like super directing. I liked to just kind of see how it was valued and not try to like manipulate it at that point. That's the part that felt a little weird to me, was just kind of the manipulation of it. But that's just the art world.
Right.
You know, and I think that
the art world's crazy.
It is. It's
dude.
wild, and
It's
it was a wild thing to walk into, and I was like, I mean, it was so surreal to be part of. You know, like I even find it weird referring to myself as an artist. Like it was just such a hobby that I walked into that it felt so weird. But yeah, like here we are.
Right. Right.
So you had a company sell your work for you?
So yeah, they're the platforms will essentially, they host these. I'm just going to call them digital assets now.
Right.
They host these digital assets on the chain for people. So we will give them the artwork and work with them. They will mint these essentially and put them on chain, and then they kind of act as a gallery. That's essentially, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
They're the middleman.
They help with all that price setting and stuff like that. That's the stuff that I'm not.
What a wild world, man. Wild.
Yes. It was wild. I mean, again,
it happened so fast.
I know.
Yes.
And it just was like a wildfire. And then the wildfire just went out.
Yeah.
And there was just smoke left and burnt fucking hills.
But I look at it like this. Like I was part of the initial first generation of all those NFTs. With the first year that they came out, I was part of that that like family of artists. And I think that there's a lot to be said about that. I think a lot of those pieces and people from that era and this early times in the future will be incredibly valuable. You know, it could be like owning like a Picasso or a Babe Ruth or something like that, because it's
okay. It still exists,
and it's from the beginning, you know, and it's the origin of everything. And again, I think that we're clearly not going into a more and more digital world. Like it is such human nature to say that'll never happen. It's like probably the most common thing ever said by humans throughout history is like, that will never happen. That will happen. And NFTs are the means in which we will own assets in those universes.
That's almost scary.
Yeah, but look around and think 15, 10, 20 years ago, you would have thought this was impossible.
Yeah, I just think
You know,
people
like
have a
some of
hard
these-
people have a hard time understanding what a different universe, another universe means. In my opinion, because you're like, what other universe are you talking about? I live here. I don't know any other universe, but you know,
Metaverse.
the metaverse.
Yeah.
You're like,
But the metaverse is essentially, if you look at the name of it, I think it essentially means a universe within a universe. It's
Yeah.
a metaverse, and
Yeah.
the universe is simply, I think, just what we experience. You know, like this is the universe we're in because this is what we're experiencing. You plug me up to some other stuff, I'm going to be experiencing another universe.
You just got to be
And
willing to
it's-
do so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're built like a computer. We got sensory organs with wires that plug in. We got instructions that come back out to these things.
So you're down for all this, where we're heading. Like,
I don't know if I'm down for it, but I feel like through learning these simulation programs and learning as much as I have about 3D and really kind of diving in and understanding AI too, that I see how all these things work together, and they all serve to like fulfill. They all serve a certain purpose towards that future, and they're all coming together. But at this point, everybody sees them as separate because it's like you've got virtual intelligence, you've got virtual assets, you've got virtual currency, but we call it artificial intelligence, non-fungible tokens, cryptocurrency. But it's all the same thing.
Yeah.
Right.
It's all headed to the same place. It's just, I think, beyond us to even comprehend like where that stuff's headed as humans.
I think it's just because it's moving so fast.
True, yeah.
People are just like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
You know? I'm not ready for this.
I feel like overnight there was ChatGPT, and like overnight,
Yeah, literally.
and it
Yeah.
just popped up, and
Yeah.
oh wait a minute, my Photoshop now can like take the background out and add these things and do all this crazy shit like
By you-
overnight.
By you telling it what to do.
Yeah, overnight this just happened. Like, I know it wasn't overnight, but it
felt
for a
like
lot
it.
it felt like it.
Yeah,
Right. That's what I'm
these
saying.
These things roll out in like threshold moments.
Crazy.
I feel like
It's almost like a planned like attack on society.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, I play around with a lot of those tools. There's ones I can upload an image of a shoe that I made with AI into another software that can then automate a 3D model of that photo that the AI made, and it's still super crude and crummy, but it's like
it's there.
it is
It's there.
mind blowing
Right.
compared to 5 years ago. No one was even talking about that as a possible capability for the future.
Yeah.
Even 2 years ago, like it's
Yeah.
just it.
Wow.
It's all going there. Anything you can automate from a physical perspective is going into robotics. Anything that we do that's mental is going to be delegated to computers or augmented by computers or merged with computers.
Who knew that this kid in San Diego drinking beers at night, partying
During
at
the
the
day.
house, ends up in this place,
I
working
know,
for these
it's
companies, doing
surreal.
this stuff. So what are you doing now? You're just messing around with different programs and like, what are we?
So I've been, I mean, I still am super, like, more than half of me is in skateboarding always. Like, that's just where,
Gee,
like,
who
I
you
watch
are, yeah.
this religiously. Every new skate video that comes out, like, that's just where my heart is.
It's embedded in you.
Yeah, but I think at this point, I want to spend a little bit more time in footwear before, like, really transitioning into an art career.
Okay.
I think that there's just still time for that to evolve to where it's ripe for it. And I love footwear, and I love 3D, and I love skateboarding. It's like, you know, there's some footwear companies out there that address all those things that
Sure.
I'm potentially talking to right now. So,
Okay.
Nice.
yeah, my hope is to continue in footwear for a while. I would love to get more involved in skateboarding again too. Like I said in the beginning, I've just never been that guy that's really good at like plugging into groups and getting to know people. So, you know, I've got like these touch points with skateboarding, but they're not as deep as I would like them to be anymore.
Right.
So I really would like to, I don't know, just put more energy into kind of connecting back into skateboarding again. But again, like I'm really, I think, focused right now on wanting to do 3D and footwear
Okay.
for a little bit longer.
Nice.
I just feel like there's so much left, so much potential in there to be done. You know what I mean? That I'm like, we're not done there yet.
So we're not switch backside flipping anything recently,
I
or
think
what?
that, yeah, but now I'm like, well, okay, let's go switch backside flip the triple set.
That's where your mind's at right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
But wait, what
It's
about
pretty big.
Let's
What-
go
it's
from I
pretty
don't think
big.
I can do it to now I think I can do everything.
what about the American Gladiator?
Oh
dude?
shit!
Oh, we almost forgot about that.
No,
Oh, I didn't forget. That's on. Trust me, I'm.
It's a lot.
It's working its way to
Oh
it.
yeah.
lot in here.
Was that during the time that you like skateboarding and ended and then trying to figure out a career? Or like a
I
footwear?
was back on 1031 at that time.
Oh, okay.
I had a good friend who worked as a I don't know if he worked in casting, but he worked in the television production industry. And
This was
Go
a
ahead.
reboot, right? Was this,
This was
like
a
the
reboot.
reboot of the
yeah,
American
I was like
Gladiators?
4 when the original came out.
Yes.
I would have gotten
Just want to make sure.
Would've gotten
Malibu
awards.
and all that. Yeah.
Malibu.
Oh yeah.
right.
dude.
Boy, huh?
So this is where I don't know the guy. Trust me, he just stole our city's name.
He wasn't from
So
Malibu.
this is it's a 2.0.
He represented it well.
Right.
Yes, it was 2.0.
Okay. Okay.
And
We have clips here, but I don't know if we could actually play it on the show.
I think, they're on YouTube.
Yeah, but sometimes
Well-
we could get demonetized. But
Yeah,
we'll
that's
play
true.
it here for the sake of it. We may not show it on your episode, but there you
There
are.
it is.
Damn, look at that.
Number 2.
Amazing.
Look at that. You're talking about
Look at that
NFTs right
neck.
there. You're talking about non-fungible tokens.
I'm talking about trying to not get my ass kicked because I got so murdered on this show. First of all, you see a lot of contestants on crutches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first night we filmed, there were 2 blown out knees and a broken leg.
Oh my god.
And I was still skateboarding at this point. So I was like, I'm just going down, dude. I'm not gonna get injured for this thing.
Were you going to get paid for this? Is that why you did it?
It was like $100,000, $50,000 prize if you won.
If you want, okay.
Probably wasn't gonna happen, so I
So
knew that.
you
but I
knew
wasn't
somebody, and they said, "Hey, we can get you on the show."
Yeah,
Easy.
yeah.
Boom, you're on.
And I went on. So there was apparently like a huge national search. They would, they did like that like mall tour where people would have to go to exercises and things. And I just went up there and talked to them, and they were like, "Okay, put you on the show." I don't even know if I could have passed that physical
Wow.
endurance challenge. Like I was getting murdered on that show.
Okay.
But so I'd kind of already like, okay, I'm not committed to this. I don't want to kill myself totally. We were practicing, and I got my neck super tweaked though, so that through the whole show I'm on painkillers, and you can just see me kind of rolling around on the ground laughing sometimes. Like I was signed up to just have a good time on that show, experience it, and not get hurt.
Wow.
That was my goal, and it was amazing. But I think again, it was one of those things where I'm like, skateboarding is so fickle. Like you can't do anything that's not 100% cool without getting clowned. And I clearly knew I was going to get clowned for that, but it was like, I don't care. It was so fun.
That's
and like
sick.
getting to go on that show and say that I got to experience that was,
Right.
I would never turn that
I
down.
love it. I love it.
Yeah.
You didn't win.
No, I didn't
No.
even get past the first round. I think I lost every game.
They do that on purpose, bro. They like have a mixture, but they don't want somebody to win. Let's just get that.
They put a
point across.
skateboarder up against a New York firefighter 15 years ago. Like, who do you think they want to win? Come on.
Wait, what is this? This is Chad Knight's American Gladiator's wardrobe
yeah.
and skateboard. Is this an auction?
This was an auction. I think this was me trying to pay rent at one point.
Well, you got signed. Yeah. Okay.
I got signed by everybody.
It did sell?
I don't think so. I think maybe I got like my friend to buy it. That
what
is
an
funny that this popped up though.
Wow.
What an experience, though. Huh?
It was so fun, man. It was so fun.
You would do it again.
I would do it again in a heartbeat. I mean, it was just like
What about Wipeout? Have you seen that show, Wipeout?
Similar,
Where they
right?
you go
That-
through the obstacle
yeah, that's
course.
cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I would do it again from a sense of like, yes, I would sign up for it again.
You would go
and
up against
experience it.
Malibu.
Now,
Well,
I don't know about
Well, he's,
Yeah,
he's
I
probably a
mean-
senior citizen now, but
yeah, that might be a good idea. Maybe senior glads.
senior glass.
Dude, did you watch that whole documentary about that?
Yes,
That was pretty
It
wild.
was wild, man.
Wild.
Yeah,
Was that Netflix?
Yeah, it was a good doc.
and then they
It
have
was,
an
yeah.
ESPN one too.
Really?
There's
30
two
for
of them.
30?
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. It's good. It's funny. But I mean that like, man, these things just pop up. I don't know
funny.
how, and I'm sure that they do for everybody else, and they probably say no. But I'm always just like, let's go for it, man. Who cares?
I love it.
Be
I
fun.
love it.
So there was no initial like, hey, we'll give you this fee to show up.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it was just the opportunity to be on.
Okay.
And again, like I think this defines my whole career and who I am and my friends that I like was magnetized to. We didn't care about being cool and like what everybody thought about us, and we didn't try to be super cool. We just wanted to have fun.
Right.
Like that's all we cared about was laughing and having fun and screwing off and not trying to like impress people and be cool. You know, maybe a mixed approach in terms of success, but that was just kind of my vibe. Is I just wanted to have fun and not worry too much about it.
Dude, I
the
love
moment.
it, man. I love it, bro. Dubs, you would do good on American Gladiators.
Maybe a while ago. I don't
Yeah.
know about now. You got to. It seems like you got.
Well, you said you could run fast.
I
Yeah.
could run fast.
But there's no running. There's no running.
You gotta-
Are you
I
kidding
think
me? You got to run from
Well,
those
it's not-
balls that are being shot at you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
a lot
but
of
you-
them.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I'm saying it's not a thing. Just who runs the fastest. It's
Yeah,
not,
there's more to
It's
it.
not that. It's
Yeah.
just.
It's more true than just being fast.
What was the hardest one? The hardest course you had to deal with?
There was one where you had. Oh yeah, that's okay. So there's one where it's a big pyramid.
Oh, yeah.
And it's
Oh, yeah, I
just
remember that
stairs.
one.
It's like
Yeah.
a big 8 block, you know? And me, I got to climb up to the top of this thing, and there's like a towering giant on the next step.
They push you
Yeah,
off.
I'm like, I would go up a stair, and he would just push me off. I'm like,
And you
I can't
tumble
go. How
down.
am I supposed
it's
to
like,
go around you?
It's like Cubert. You're
Yeah,
trying to get up, and then, yeah.
You're running
100%,
around and
yeah.
running around trying to find
and
your
this
way to
guy's
the
just
top.
like, no, like what?
But you could do
It
that
was
to
so
him as
frustrating.
well, obviously. But
Yeah,
good
but
luck.
I'm not like gonna
Good luck.
juke him out of the way. And
He's got the advantage. He's
Yes.
up there, right?
So
Yes.
I have to tell this story though. So on the show, I think they aired 5 events, like between me and my contestant, but there were 6, and that was one we tied on, so they cut it because the points wouldn't total up. There was one where we wrestled. We had to wrestle the gladiator on a rotating disc.
I remember those.
and I kicked the guy's ass on that one thing, and it's the one thing they didn't show because they tied on it. And my redemption was like,
no.
I can finally not look like just a clown on this show.
Goodness.
Well, that looks insane just by itself. So you have one guy go on one side, you're on the other, and then you have
Yeah, these little guys in spandex.
It's like a race almost.
Yeah,
You're trying to
try-
race the guy.
race to the
Yeah.
But not much of a race. It's just
If you can get to the
the
top.
speed to get there isn't the challenge. It's the barriers to
Yeah.
get there.
Dude.
Did you talk to
But
those
it
guys
was-
at all? Did you talk
Yeah.
to the glad?
You know what? The guy that I wrestled, it was this huge. I can't remember his name, but he was on Fuel TV and did one of those little interviews with me that they used
No
to have
way.
back in the day.
No
He
way.
was on the show, The Daily Show.
Okay.
Did
okay.
you know? Did
Yeah.
you say like, "Hey, you're that guy," or did he
Yeah, they said
recognize
that he
you?
was gonna. No, they contacted the studio for the interview, and he came on the show for a little bit. They were
No,
all
but when you
super
saw him
cool.
at American Gladiators, did you guys?
No, this
recognize-
was after the show.
After.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. We didn't mingle beforehand. There was no pre-fight meeting.
How you doing?
Press
man?
conference,
You
yeah.
doing good? I'm gonna whoop your ass.
But just imagine you're on a football field with a bunch of pro football players and none of you have pads on and you have to play them. That's
Right.
what it was.
Right. In spandex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Which makes it even more uncomfortable. They put you in
And
spandex. instead.
humiliating.
Yeah.
He wants you comfortable.
Yeah. Very agile that way. Not a lot of wind.
Just
Too good.
cold in the studio, maybe.
I don't remember, but I know that
Oh.
they've flown in a bunch of convicts to fill the audience.
Really?
what?
That's
Whoa.
something I didn't know. They do that a lot in LA when they're filming at studios for shows. They'll bring in a bunch of convicts to fill the seats.
That sounds pretty smart.
Like
So
that,
remember-
that are current convicts?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh wow, it's like their extracurricular activity.
It's they're seat fillers.
Wow.
Yeah, You know.
probably
It
Field trip.
sounds
You don't have
weird
to,
when
you
I
don't have to
say
pay
it.
them, probably. Is that
No.
Yeah, I don't know.
Dude, that's not. I've never heard that.
It doesn't sound right when I say it out loud and I think about it.
Sure.
But that's what I was told.
They're like, yay,
Yeah,
cruise
like
trip.
why would they
know,
let a bunch
right?
of convicts go out and do a TV show? But
Crazy.
that's what I heard. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
Go
And
watch
they were
American
so-
Gladiators.
Yeah.
Dude, and there was one point where
Change.
during the show, Hulk Hogan said something to me, and I'm like, yeah, like I'm perfect for this challenge. My whole job is about running from the cops. And the whole crowd was like, yeah! There's all these convicts in there. Oh, dude.
Wow.
Oh, it was
You're like, no, I'm a skateboarder. Skateboarder.
Yeah. That's all we do. Jump over fences.
Osiris video, man. You
Yeah.
see me in there? Skate for Maple Skateboards.
Oh, that's so good.
Mark Johnson. Oh, man. Dude, this has been incredible, bro.
I
Man,
know. There's
Chad
a lot to
Knights,
cover.
Dude. We covered a lot.
And
Bro, I mean, I love it.
I am so happy to be here.
Dude.
I mean, this is, you guys just are so like essential and such a part of that generation that it's like, I don't get to plug into this a lot, so it's super special
Dude.
to be able to do this.
Well, it's just fun. I love talking to, like, you were in a whole different, like, field at the
Yeah.
same point in time. And, like, we never really crossed paths. Like you were saying earlier, like, maybe at ASR, maybe at something. But there was no point where we were hanging out, but we all knew each other. We all
Yeah.
had that
Yeah.
respect for each other.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
yeah.
It's like, oh, if I saw Chad Knight, I'd just be like, oh, hey, Chad, you would know who I was. I would know who you are.
Yeah.
Hopefully, essentially.
It's funny. I always,
Yeah.
for some reason, feel like I just have the most generic human face. So I'm always surprised when people recognize me.
Well, you're a bigger dude too, though. You were a bigger
True.
guy on
Yeah.
the skateboard
Oh,
as
yeah.
well. Like
Right.
you
I
weren't
was well
like
fed.
you're not fat, but you're just a
I was-
bigger.
Go on.
You're just a bigger dude.
I was a big dude for a while. Yeah.
I didn't think you were like overweight.
I'll send you some pictures.
Okay.
No, but that board, that green board,
Yeah,
the reason
maple,
it was
yeah.
shot from a top angle is because my double chin.
Shut up.
Swear to God.
Hold on. I don't
I had a
think-
broken leg then too,
I
though.
don't think people can see it. Actually, I'll hold it up right here.
That's Vitek's favorite board to make fun of me for.
Is it?
Yeah, because it looks like I've got some like weird leather football helmet on from
does.
the
Yeah, it was like a
1800s.
wrestling, like a wrestling kind
I
of
didn't
thing
think about it
going
until
on.
you said it. Until you said it.
It's
Yeah.
just a beanie, though, man.
does.
It's a 90s beanie.
I don't believe you.
Yeah. Oh,
I think it's a leather helmet.
I
Yeah,
got lots of
looks like
photos
it.
to send you then. But yeah, I was.
You were hiding the double chin.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, I was.
Man, you're killing it though.
Yeah.
Switch backside flipping,
Yeah, dude.
double
That,
sets,
man,
and switch pop
yeah.
shoving, and
That gets to stay with you forever.
I know.
So good, bro.
It is. It's so true.
good.
And I feel like you're the first one I saw doing alley-oop like tricks over things. The alley-oop back 180s over rails.
Oh, really?
I've never seen too many people do. You can.
Yeah.
Canton.
Yeah, but you really didn't see people doing it like that back then.
That's interesting. I always thought that was such an easy win. Like, you're just going over it the hard way, but you're literally
doing
it's
it
just
the easy.
same
You're
thing,
doing an
pretty
easy
much.
trick, but the hard way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's why no one was doing it because no one was really thinking about
But
it.
it's not
too much.
really the hard way, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
For you, it wasn't.
Yeah, I didn't think it was any harder. It was just like a bonus point to the trick.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, those hard ways look good on film, though. They look good. Like,
Yeah.
it's a...
Depending on how you filmed it.
Well, yeah, no, for sure.
But
But always just seeing it going the opposite way is
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Right? You're like, damn.
Canton's got some good ones like that.
Dude,
alley
I was
backside
just-
flip over
Now,
the
he's a
lower
guy
rail.
Oh,
that
yeah, that
we were
was
talking
nuts.
earlier, the perception, like I was a huge Ken fan,
Mm-hmm.
man, like huge. That's the guy's video I would watch. I wasn't doing all the shit he was doing,
Yeah.
obviously. So kind of like, and he was a taller dude too. So I was like, I was hyped on him.
Yeah.
You know, I was just always a fan, you know?
Well, I mean, I've not always been strictly fans of people who skate like me.
Right.
I mean, I think some of my favorite skateboarders don't skate anything like me because I appreciate the fact that
This is true.
I can't do that shit.
This is true.
So
Yeah.
it's just like a whole nother level of respect for people who have the patience to sit there and try things that aren't just throwing themselves down something.
For sure.
I based my whole career around that.
Yeah.
It's exhausting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we shut this down,
Go ahead.
I want to get this on record that I have a handrail NBD. I've
That's
You got a
had
handrail
I've
never
had
been
like
done.
5 handrail tricks in my whole life.
Okay.
Big spin flip, front board fakie, Osiris video. I want,
Last trick.
yes,
Right.
I want to put that on record and make the claim that was an NBD.
That was the first at that time.
I think so.
That was in 1990, probably eight,
Eight,
right?
yeah.
Since you were filming for it, and it came
Yeah.
out in 99.
Big spin
Yeah.
flip front board.
In Osiris
Fakey.
Storm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fakey.
To a little heel.
Yeah, I watched that today, and I was like, yeah, I don't think I've ever. That was, but it was
Right?
weird too because you weren't even doing anything close to that in your video part.
I know.
That's what that came up. Like, wait, that was random.
That's why I wanted to bring it up because I'm so proud of it. It's like,
Yeah.
We're gonna find it.
I probably got a lot of mini ramp ones and stuff like that, but a handrail, that's like me having like a ledge trick nobody had ever done. That would be mind blowing for me. So I'm just like,
Yeah, where was that
where
rail,
else
by
can
the
you
way?
formally claim it.
It was
There.
little San Diego rail, but
Ooh, see
where
that
was it?
heel?
Yeah.
How do we?
Where was that?
I remember that, dude.
'Cause I remember we were watching Fulfill the Dream the other day, and like Brandon Switch crooked it.
I think it's got to be near Claremont.
Okay.
There
Yeah,
it
right
is.
here.
There it is.
Yeah, I remember
Boom.
that rail.
I mean, you barely tapped. You.
Barely slid it.
Yeah.
Is that what you're going to say? Or I barely hit my
You
heel.
no, you barely slid it.
Yeah. Glad we can be honest.
And you did hear a heel.
Oops. Oh my God.
Look at that. Look at that
Dude.
face.
Look at that, bro. So
See, I'm
you
on there.
think
I think you might be right,
that
bro.
this was the first big
I
flip
think.
front board on a handrail, 1998-ish.
captured on video.
Captured on
Well,
video.
yeah. I mean, I'm sure someone that you guys know did this before.
Well, that's it. No, but
Before
that
filmed, right,
that's the
right.
interesting
Yeah.
thing, though. Is like people, somebody on the East Coast could have even been
Yeah.
very
For sure.
well doing that, or NorCal, or wherever, or even Middle America. Like, it's so random. But the first one on film, like day one, first one on film, hard flip.
Yep. I still remember
Yeah.
so clearly trying to dissect what the hell happened in that clip.
We were all like, what was that?
Yeah,
It was
like,
like a gap this
what?
big too, like
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
foot long. Yeah.
I think
Still,
the next
first one
person,
filmed, though.
the next person I could think of doing it, and it had to be after this, would be Bastion.
Oh, yeah. He
'Cause
did them
He did 'em.
incredible.
Yeah, and I feel like that's
about right.
the next person I saw doing it.
Maybe.
Yeah, and people do them a lot now.
Yeah,
People do them come out forward too. Like,
yeah.
People do it switch.
Well,
Dude,
the,
oh yeah, huh?
People do it the
Yeah.
front blunt.
well,
yeah,
the,
I guess that's true for everything at this point.
the beauty of this
joke.
claim right now is you're going to get a lot of comments.
I know.
in the
Yeah.
comment section of this
But that's
video.
kind of why I wanted to put it out there,
Right.
was just to validate it or debunk it.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
some people,
Fine if I'm not-
somebody may say like my buddy Charlie did that
Yeah.
in 99,
Well, let's see it.
97, you know, in Des Moines.
Come on, Charlie, let's
Yeah.
see that shit.
Let's see
then.
the
Footage.
footy.
Yeah,
Prove
Yeah.
it. Prove it.
yeah.
You're going to be getting all these DMs like, here it is.
Chad Knight with the NBD, dude. Look at that. First to do it, bro.
On a handrail.
I think it's very like unusual to have that in your career. To be honest, for anyone to have an NBD under their belt is a very cool thing. So that's very awesome.
Well, I feel like for me to have it on a handrail would be like if you had it on vert.
Right.
Like it's just very out of character.
Sure,
so it's just
sure.
Like, man,
That makes
it's
sense.
just something I'm hyped on.
True. Yeah, man. I'm trying to think. Named a trick named after you or an NBD. They didn't call it the Chad Knight, so maybe somebody else did it.
I mean,
It could
not
have
too
been
late. It could be named
the Knight.
the night slide, man.
The Night Slide. What's a Night Slide? Dude, Chad Knight, big flip back from board down the rail.
Yes.
If there's a
Night
Rick
slide.
flip, Rick flip,
Yep.
you got Night slide.
The Night Slide.
The
Chad.
slide.
The Night Slide.
I think the Chad flip might be even better.
Almost sounds kind of.
Oh my god, being a total Chad. Baby.
Yeah.
Chad flip. Listen, this has been amazing. Can we give you some 9 Club stuff to take home with you?
I would love
Dude,
that.
Kelly, we do the
Yeah, of
honors,
course.
bro.
I would love that.
What size? Large.
Large. Yeah.
One thing that I also wanted to ask you,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's true or not, but did you almost lose your eye doing a trick on a handrail?
That was at Syndrome Park.
Syndrome Park.
Yeah. So they had this A-frame ledge that I was trying to do a manual up and then like a backside lip slide down the other side of it.
Okay.
And I was running out and caught or kind of lost my balance, and there was also an A-frame handrail next to it. So I'm like scrambling, trying to catch my balance, and smash my face into the corner of the
No.
rail.
Oh, shit.
You can see I have a scar here.
I can see that
Here
a little
still.
bit. Yeah. Here's the photos.
Yeah, so
Wow.
I exploded.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thanks, Kelly.
Wow.
It's called an orbital blowout. There's an orbital.
Socket or something?
Yeah, it's a bone that's super. It's about as thick as an eggshell. So I luckily only had a small hole in it. Otherwise, they'll have to put a plate down there and operate on it. But it was probably the scariest thing that's ever happened because it was serious impact. Like I broke the bone and my whole face went numb. So I was like, I was terrified. I was sitting there like afraid to like feel my face even. I thought I smashed it all in. So it was stressful, yeah. And then, that was super scary. Wow. I've had a lot of those things. They're just like such close calls.
Isn't it
I'm like,
funny though? I find it interesting also that it wasn't on a big object. Seems like a relatively, normal trick to do. Nothing
it was
crazy.
fluke. Yeah.
What'd you say? Manual back lip?
I was trying to do manual up it, backlip down.
Backlip down it, right.
And then lost balance. It was just running. And my mom was like, maybe you're getting too old for this and your reaction time isn't as good.
You're not as spry as you used to be.
This could have happened to anybody, ma.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was super sketchy. It was scary.
Well, I'm glad you could still say. How many fingers am I holding up?
2.
Okay. Just making sure. Dude, Chad,
Dose.
first of all, dude, pleasure. Thank you
so
so much. And
Thank you
for
so
coming on the
much,
show and
dude.
sharing all
Glad
your
you
little
made it.
stories, bro. Appreciate you. Yeti. They got the plastic
Oh, wow.
now. And here's a 9 Club Yeti one.
you.
You can see through it and everything. Stay hydrated out there.
We have other
doing
stuff
it.
too. We have like
Oh yeah, we're gonna
coffee stuff.
we're gonna hook you up, bro. But this is look at this.
Some socks.
Nice.
Stance socks.
I love socks.
Do you?
Yeah.
Bro, here you go.
A shoe designer, you
This is-
probably have a
Essential.
different appreciation for socks.
You watch my old sponsor me videos. There, I got some wild socks on and some of those pulled up like Alfonso used to do under his
Okay.
knee pads. Anyway,
Shout
so
out
go
to
on.
Alfonso Rollins,
Yeah.
man.
Big
the
shout out.
best.
Nice.
9 Club shirt.
Nice.
All this available on the 9club.com. Here you go, Chad. That's for
Thank
you.
you, thank you.
And our friends over at Skull Candy, they had sent us a bunch of headphones for you. You know,
those.
this is what we're rocking right now. But these are the Crusher
Nice.
ANC 2s. These are skull thumping Crusher bass with none of the noise. There you go, man. That's for you.
Thank you. These will be
You could do it wired or Bluetooth. You know what I'm saying?
These will be great because I've been thinking about doing streaming
Oh,
lately.
you should.
I don't know with like art stuff or whatever, but just like
If you need any help with that, let me know.
It seems like a fun medium to play around with.
It's
so
easy to
I'll-
jump
I'll
on
make
Twitch
sure I-
real quick
go.
or
Yeah.
YouTube, you know? Yeah. Let me know. I can help you out.
For sure.
I'll set you up, you know
All
what I'm
right.
saying?
Awesome.
Dude, Chad Knight, dude. Incredible, bro.
Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Yeah.
And we'll go American Gladiator out on the street after this.
Yeah.
We got a pyramid set up.
Yep.
Yeah. Kelly will be at the top of it.
Yep.
You probably knock my ass out real quick.
I also want it to be known that for the next episode where you're drunk on peanut butter whiskey, that I brought it.
He did.
You did. You brought a gift.
Yes.
We will say salute to you on the next one.
I don't need the credit. I just want people to know that I'm the one giving them that enjoyment.
For those that don't know, we have a live show on Thursday nights, and we just sit here, talk about skating, watch skate videos, and occasionally we have a little peanut butter whiskey that we like to indulge in. And I have gotten pretty faded on the show, but it's all in good fun, man. We have a good time, and we appreciate that. The peanut butter whiskey it will be utilized. It will
This Thursday?
I don't know. Well, we got to get Dubs an Uber. He lives kind of far, so we got to plan this out a little bit. We got to be safe.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's true.
Saying. But thank you for that, bro. We appreciate you.
You're welcome. Thank you
We
all for what you do.
We should have got plastered on this show. Could have had a much
That was
interesting
the goal.
conversation.
I would just say that you have to have me back when you're going to drink that sometime. Or you have to drink that with me at some point. Not that I'll be drinking it, but I just want to watch you drink it live. That's all.
How about this? How about if somebody is off the show, Dubs has to go on something, or Kelly's out of town or something, you come on the nightclub live show, you just sit in with us.
I would love
He's close by.
to be a fill-in.
You're close by. Yeah. And I'll get plastered while you just sit there and laugh at me.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be.
sounds awesome.
I'm going out of town at the end of May or beginning of June. The same. I have a spot open
And
for the live show. Just letting you know.
Book the Uber rides.
Yeah.
that would be insane. I would love that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we supposed to be talking with headphones on still? Or are we still on the show?
Yeah, we're still on the show, man. We haven't wrapped it up yet. Chad Knight, thank you so much. Come back
Yes.
anytime, dude.
Thank
it was
you.
a pleasure
Thank
hanging
you so
out
much.
with you.
Thank
Yes.
you so
Hell
much.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. And
Chad.
thank you everybody for
Thanks,
watching,
Chad.
for supporting this show.